Featured locally for the Carolinas. And off we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Welcome in. Great to have you. Happy Tuesday to everybody that's not a Boston Celtics fan. Imagine losing Game 4, going down 3-1, and that's not the worst thing that happened to you last night. We're going to get into that here in just a minute because Jason Tatum left in the fourth quarter with what the Celtics described as a lower leg injury and what anybody who was watching would describe as, oh, bleep, his Achilles just blew out. Because that is, I'm not a doctor, nor did I stay in the Holiday Inn Express last night, but that is what happened. So we're going to get to that coming up in a little while. It's not just that the Golden State Warriors lost again. And it's not just that they lost the game. But there are two stories out of that. Number one, a guy who has been one of my favorite basketball players for a hot minute now, Jimmy Butler, disappointed me a lot last night. Not because he had a bad game. Jimmy Butler disappointed me last night because in a moment where he could have become the guy, he became MIA, which was disappointing. Golden State, it's not just that they lost, and it's not just that they're going to lose this series. I think that that dynasty, question mark, is done. We'll talk about that coming up in a minute. We're starting to see some NFL schedule release leaks. Starting to find out some games. Lonzo gets to stay up on Christmas night again because the Chiefs now synonymous with Christmas Eve or Christmas Day football.
Yeah, Chiefs are Christmas, man. Going forward, Chiefs are Christmas. That's nothing wrong with that.
The Cowboys are Thanksgiving. The Chiefs are Christmas. That's just what it's going to be. We found out that, well, we haven't found out anything. But a lot of reports dropping yesterday, the Chiefs and the Broncos.
Sunday night. I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean, Christmas night, rather.
Christmas
night. There's nothing wrong with. I mean, you've already played with your toys. You've already tried on the clothes and know which ones you're taking back. The family has either gone away or went to sleep. You've already you're in the stocking right now, so you're hyped up on chocolate. Why not watch some football?
No, you're spot on. If your team is going to draw the holiday game, you want the holiday night game, right? I have like the Saints have played a Thanksgiving game, I think, once or twice. And it's always very frustrating because it always seems to happen to fall on the Thanksgiving that I'm not with my family, right? Because my family is 100% going to say, yeah, the Saints are on. Yeah, no, you can cancel everything else. The dishes can wait until tomorrow. The Saints are on. Historically, we're skipping out on everything. It's always been when I'm not with my family. It's when I'm with somebody else's fam that the Saints happen to play at 2:00, and it's or noon or whatever time they play here, Eastern time. I still don't get it. It's always frustrating when that happens. And you have the option of either saying, hey, I know the fam is doing fam stuff, but I'm out for 3 hours. I'm out. Or you got to do what I have been told is worse, which is like you're there with the fam, but you're over in the corner and you're like watching the game on your phone and they can see that you're totally checked out from the ongoing fam events. You did get the good draw, great one, in having the nighttime game, because by the time 8:00 p.m. rolls around, even the fam is over being around the fam, right? Like even the ones who are the family before football people, even they are like, yeah, I think I've had enough of you guys. You're good if you want to sneak off to the bro cave and go watch 3 hours of Patty Mahomes and the crew.
There's also the fact that now, as a grandparent, the kids usually will go home at that point.
That's true.
So
that's true.
So it's just me and my wife, who also is a big time football fan. So
and Miss Lisa sets the schedule, and the Chiefs are always on the schedule.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm good with it. If I'm going to draw the holiday game, as the Chiefs have again, I want to draw the night contest. I want to draw the night game. I can't, like, or I guess if you're going to draw the midday game, I want to be the feature team, right? Like, yes, we're playing Thanksgiving at 1 o'clock, but we're playing every Thanksgiving at 1 o'clock. That is part of my Thanksgiving. I think it would be easier for me to be able to tell the better half, yo, I'm gonna have to skip out on about 30% of Thanksgiving or Christmas Day or whatever with the fam because the Saints are playing. I think it would be easier if it was that every year. Or would it not be? Maybe you get why do you have to do it? It's every year. Why do you have to skip it out every year?
See, also when we do Thanksgiving, our meal is usually done around ready at 11:30. So we've eaten Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is basically lunch. Look, football just came on. It works out perfectly. And then you go back for leftovers. Hey, look, game 2's getting ready to come on. Everything works out just right.
That is fantastic if you're in a football family, right? If you're in a football family, that's spectacular. The problem is for those of you that married into a not football family, those of you that married into a family for whom football is just like that thing that our, son-in-law, brother-in-law, whatever does. If that's your spot, you are, as the kids say, cooked at that point.
Make the entire family mad at you. They don't want to have anything to do with you. Then you don't have to worry about it. I mean, that's an angle. It's just some
risky.
People might go that way.
Risky.
Is it?
Risky. 100% risky. And it's risky in that spot because the significant other may get and or stay mad at you for that. That's the risk you're going to bump into in that spot is it possible that the significant other goes, yeah, no, I know that's your thing. I know that's what you do. I know it's on the schedule. I know. But man, this is the fam, man. Like, this is the family. It's got to be bigger than that. If you're in a football family, that's worked into the schedule. It's always been worked into the schedule with the Florida family. It's always been worked into the schedule that Thanksgiving dinner is, on the table at noon. We're done at 1 o'clock or whatever. And then the football game goes on the TVs. And if you want to watch the football, watch the football. If you don't want to watch the football, go in the kitchen, go to grandma's kitchen table, go to Geraldine's kitchen table. You can sit around that, talk not football, and those who want to watch football go in the living room. But I know that there are some families that's not football's not a part of the culture. And if you go to their house for Thanksgiving and it gets to be 1 o'clock and you look up and the TV's on, the news. Oh, let's watch the parade.
By the way, the parade ends and goes right into football if you're on the right channel.
I don't know.
I'm just saying, just because we watch the parade every Thanksgiving and it goes right into pregame of football. So, I mean, on one channel, on the other channel, it goes into the dog show. So,
maybe that's it. It's always something. Like, there's that family that there's not football, dog show, replay of the parade, the news, whatever. And if there's not anybody else that's willing to be the one that gets up and turns the channel, and you got to be that guy, that's a problem. So I think I'd rather be the I think I'd rather be the annual feature, right? Because I think if it's the annual feature, you can say to the non-football fan, hey, just as an FYI, one of my Thanksgiving traditions is that my Chiefs play at 8 o'clock. My Saints play at 2:30 or whatever. And that is, that's not an option. Like it's part of my thing. It makes me feel connected. How heavy are you leaning into the center? Not you. You've got a unicorn. You've got one that says, yeah, no, we're watching football. But for those of you that maybe did not marry into a football family, how heavy do you lean into the sentimentality of the football, right? Like how heavy do you lean into, well, look, I know it's Thanksgiving Day. I know it's Christmas Day. I know it's a holiday. I know it's a big deal. But like, when I was growing up, me and my whole family, we watched the football. And, putting the football on, even if it's on in the background, putting the football on, it just makes me feel connected to my roots. It just makes me feel connected to my family. And I can't be around them this year. So this is how I feel connected to them. I 1000% will lean into that. What's the word I'm looking for here? Emotional manipulation. Not above it. Not above it nor against it. If I can emotionally manipulate the wife gets it, right? Like this isn't about the wife. The wife gets it. She understands. She gets it. She's like, yeah. Nope, you're like that's priority. I completely understand that. So I don't really have to push for that. The rest of the fam, not football people. So them, it's like, yeah, I'm sorry guys, but like, I grew up watching the Saints with my grandpappy. If you say grandpappy, it makes it seem a lot more emotional.
Does it?
Yeah, you got to give him you can't just say grandpa. Like, you got to give him a nickname.
Maybe in Pickens. I don't know.
Me and my peepaw used to watch the Saints.
There you go.
Peepaw's a good one.
Yeah, grandpappy just sounds, I don't know anyone who calls their grandpa grandpappy.
That's very the Waltons. We're going to watch the football with grandpappy up on the hill. Nah, hey, you know what? When I was a kid, me and my peepaw, who I was named after, it's very important to me. Me and my people used to watch the Saints. And, I feel that's just how I stay. That's how I celebrate his memory.
That's the move right there, for sure.
So there you go, people. We're out here trying to help you make the world a better place. We did get some more leaks out yesterday. We now know that the NFL's 2025 season kickoff will be, of course, who else? The reigning, defending, undisputed NFL Super Bowl champions taking on the Dallas Cowboys, because who else are they going to put there? So George Pickens will make
It's about views, man. I mean, and whether you like Dallas or not, there's still a pretty big fan base for the Cowboys.
Oh, I agree entirely. Do you want to know why it is that I know it's about views? Do you want to know why it is that I am now fully aware and there to me? I'm having a real problem this morning. And the problem I have is that it is now blatantly obvious that clicks and views rule the world. Why is that? Oh, don't worry, I'll tell you. After I change my computer settings back so that, once again, the audio that I so effortlessly set up plays correctly. How do I know it's about ratings?
The fourth pick in the NBA draft goes to the Charlotte Hornets. Picking third will be the Philadelphia 76ers. The second pick will be made by the San Antonio Spurs, and that means that the number one pick in the 2025 NBA draft goes to the Dallas Mavericks.
So, 3 months after sending Luka Doncic to Los Angeles, California in return for Anthony Davis, a player that you don't even remember who it is anymore, and to pick, would you look at that? With a 1.8% chance at the overall first round pick, the Dallas Mavericks get the first round pick. The that's not even the only conspiracy theory floating around about the NBA right now. Because I'm going to tell you right now, is it rigged? Is it not rigged? That is the conversation du jour in the NBA, which is too bad because the NBA playoffs are killing it right now. Well, not this round. They're kind of lopsided now, but that's got more to do with superstar injuries than anything. But the fact that the Mavs become the most recent, not only most recent team, to trade a superstar to a big market team and then immediately draw the number 1 overall pick, despite the fact that they had a 1.8% chance of drawing the number 1 overall pick, has got the conspiracy theorist up in arms today. And you know me, there's not much I love more than poo-pooing the conspiracy theories. I'm having a hard time doing it today. Real hard time. So when we come back, let's chat about that. Is the NBA rigged? And if it's not, does it matter? Because it damn sure feels like it. Somebody calculated the odds, not just of Dallas getting the 1 seed, which is 1.8%, but the odds that they, San Antonio, and Philadelphia would get better picks than Washington, Charlotte, Utah, and it is a astronomical number, like an almost numerically impossible number. We're going to talk about that when we come back here in just a minute. I am Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo on the ones and twos. 844-326-3663 is the number. This is the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, good morning, people of the internet. I hope you are well and engaged and entertained.
CEO of Belfont America, the pioneers of the car stereo. Today, we're not just about sound systems. We are revolutionizing the e-bike scene with Blue Dot Bike. Thanks to AmericanEagle.com, our online presence now features a dynamic e-commerce website that showcases the quality and affordability of our foldable e-bikes. And our collegiate e-bikes, just perfect for the college fanatic. These e-bikes offer a new way to experience freedom on 2 wheels. No matter your age. When we needed a top-notch website to match our cutting-edge e-bikes, we turned to AmericanEagle.com.
Still got it.
They made the impossible seem easy, tackling digital challenges like pros. Check out the Blue Dot Bike website to see AmericanEagle.com's amazing work in action. Need the best in website and digital marketing solutions? AmericanEagle.com is your go-to. They've been a game changer for us, and they can be for you too. Visit AmericanEagle.com or call 877-WEB-NOW1. That's 877-WEB-NOW1.
Sponsored by SC Education Lottery. The Mega Millions jackpot for Tuesday is $110 million. Be sure to stop by your local South Carolina Education Lottery retailer and get your ticket today. See SCEducationLottery.com for jackpot odds and a store near you.
Upstate. Here's how to get in the game. On your radio at 97.7 FM, 1330 AM, Greenville. 97.1 FM, 950 AM, Spartanburg.
Listen on your phone, download the Odyssey app, and search The Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot more to know about sound if you really want to go into the subject.
Your smart speaker. Just say play 97 The Fan Upstate. On your HD radio at WFBC HD3. There's just one more time. And on your computer at The Fan.
FanUpstate.com.
Always streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey.
The Dallas Mavericks received the number 1 overall lottery pick 3 months after they send generational superstar Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. And when that news dropped last night, the Jazz get to 5, Hornets 4, Sixers 3, Spurs 2, Mavericks 1. When that news dropped last night, the internet exploded. And understandably so. The Mavs had a 1.8% chance of grabbing the number 1 overall pick. The Mavs, a team that was a borderline playoff team this year grabs the number 1 overall pick. And not just in any given year. A year in which a player, Cooper Flagg, that many people, I don't know if I've decided yet, but many people believe is the next superstar to come into the NBA, is going to be the number 1 overall pick. So the commentary that the National Basketball Association is rigged got very, very loud last night. But, and Lonzo reminded me of this yesterday. Take you back a couple of weeks ago when one LeBron James sat in on the Pat McAfee show and he dropped this little nugget.
Listen, man, during the ball drop, during the lottery drop, Cleveland got the number 1 pick. I just don't think that was. What a coincidence!
Don't you think?
Wemby with the Spurs.
Oh my God! Let's keep LeBron home. You know what? Patrick Ewing to the Knicks. Derrick Rose to the Bulls. Right? I understand the assignment, guys. I had to make sure that,
So LeBron says the year after he leaves Cleveland to go to Miami, Cleveland gets the number 1 overall selection. I am a New Orleans Pelicans fan. Not once, but twice. The best player on my team, first Chris Paul, secondly Anthony Davis, were sent from New Orleans to the Los Angeles Lakers. And both times that happened, the New Orleans Pelicans received the number 1 overall draft pick in the next year's draft. Twice it's happened, just to my club. We sent Chris Paul to LA. We got the number 1 overall pick. We used it on Anthony Davis. A few years later, Anthony Davis gets sent to Los Angeles. We get the number 1 overall pick. We use it on Zion Williamson. It is, at this point, very difficult to push back on the argument that the NBA draft lottery is rigged.
Why would you want to? Why would you want to push back? It just seems so obvious. And has the NBA addressed it? Has anyone asked them? Have they just went, come on?
The NBA has addressed it, sort of, by hiring an outside agency called Ernst & Young.
I've heard of them before.
You have.
They're very famous.
They are very famous. This is what they do. They're probably the most respected auditing company in the United States. So Ernst & Young is hired as the outside party to audit the NBA draft and make sure that the public can have some faith that it is being handled fairly. Here's the reason that I am going to, I think, do my best to convince myself, if none of you, that the NBA draft is not rigged. Because if it is, what's the point in me investing in it anymore? Honestly, if it is, what is the point in me investing? And a lot of folks I talked to last night, I was texting with the buddies. One of them said, because I was making the argument that there is no reason, if it is rigged, there is no reason for me as a fan of a small market team to invest. We can't win. We cannot win. And they said, wait a minute, Rob Brown. The Milwaukee Bucks won a title. And I went, you are correct. With Giannis Antetokounmpo, you are exactly correct. And then what happened? Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks won a title. The next year, they got bounced in a gentleman's sweep, if I recall correctly, in the conference semifinals. Since then, they have made the playoffs 3 straight years. They have been bounced in in round 1 3 straight years. They got one. Quick. When's the last small market team before that to win a title? Top of your head. A lot of people couldn't do it.
I don't remember. All I know is if it's rigged, I don't care. I mean, how many times have this happened? And we've seen it, that it's resulted in a championship or a good team.
You talking about the draft?
Yeah, the number one draft. Suddenly they get so Dallas gets the number one pick, and they take the kid out of Duke. Are they a contender?
Yes.
No.
Dallas is a contender. Dallas was this close to a playoff run this year, and this Dallas team with Luka on it was in the NBA Finals last year. Last year. Literally last year.
I just want to know how many times it's resulted in a championship when supposedly they got the pick because of this whole conspiracy. Wembayama, they got San Antonio got Wembayama.
Would have been a playoff team if he didn't have blood clots. Would have been. I mean, that like they were in a playoff spot, and it would have been a wild card. It would have been a play.
Would they have won the championship? I doubt it.
No. Victor Wembanyama's in his second year.
Right.
Like NBA players don't show up and with
other
rare exceptions.
Other than LeBron, and he didn't do it where he was drafted, not until later. When has it resulted in a championship? So if it is rigged, who cares is my point. Because how has it really helped that team
I'll
out?
answer that. Small market team scare. And here's why. Small market teams, I'm a Pelicans fan. I'll use me as an example. Small market fans can only have their team be made relevant through the draft. No superstars go to small market teams. None. The only one in recent memory is Dame Lillard going to Milwaukee, and the only reason Dame went to Milwaukee was because Giannis was already there. If Giannis Antetokounmpo is not a buck, Dame Lillard's not in Milwaukee. There are no superstars that go to small market teams. You have to home grow small market teams. You have to home grow your superstars. And the only way to do that is through the draft. Or, I guess you can get real lucky. But I'm a Pellies fan. If I go back to the start of the franchise in New Orleans, when they left Charlotte and they went to New Orleans and they were the Hornets for a couple of years before they became the Pelicans. The superstars that have come through New Orleans, Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson, they were all draft picks. All of them. There has not been a free agency pickup. The closest we've gotten was Brandon Ingram. Why was Brandon Ingram a Pelican? Because he came over in the Anthony Davis trade. Because he came to New Orleans as a trade piece from LA, spent his time there, and as soon as he could get up out of there, he was up out of there. Partially because and this is on the program, they never started to build around BI as a legitimate front-run superstar guy, and I think he got to the point where he believed that, and he may be right, that he can be an NBA frontliner superstar, and all New Orleans did was zone in on Zion Williamson the entire time, and I think it frustrated him to the point of wanting out. But if you are a Charlotte fan, who's the last big player that came to Charlotte? Who's the last big free agent that came to Charlotte? I'm struggling.
Was Ball traded?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I couldn't remember.
And most of those guys, and I'm not saying that LaMelo will or will not, but most of those guys that are traded to a small market team, they stay there through the end of that contract, and they can't wait to get the hell up out of there. The reason that I am going to fight to keep myself from accepting that the NBA draft lottery is rigged, whether it is or isn't, there is only one reason for me. And that one reason is the only way that a small market team like the one that I am a fan of can grow is through the draft. You are never going to see a front line make you a championship contender free agent sign with New Orleans. The only time you're going to get top line talent is when you trade your current top line talent away for them. Those guys are going to come, they're going to play out their contract, and they're going to get right the hell back out. You have one opportunity to pull a miracle as a small market team. One. And that is to draft a guy who shows up and is ready. If Zion Williamson would have been everything he was supposed to have been coming out of Duke, then maybe the Pelicans with Brandon Ingram, with some of the Jose Alvarado, some of these role players they placed around him, maybe they make a run. Maybe they make a run, and maybe I get to see an NBA championship in New Orleans. But Zion Williamson hasn't been that. I mean, you can see like he could be, but he can't stay healthy and he won't stay in shape. He hasn't had that moment of maturation yet. I hope he does. I hope it changes. I hope after this many years in the league, this many injuries, this many missed games, who knows how many dollar bills, y'all, he's missed out on. I don't know. I hope one day he figures it out. But he hasn't yet. The only way that small market teams can have any sort of chance to win a title is if they get a guy in the draft who shows up and is everything you want him to be. If they don't, you remain irrelevant. You stay irrelevant. So if I'm a Charlotte fan, I'm devastated today. I had a 14% chance of getting the 1 seed. I had a 14% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. I had like a 30% chance of getting the number 2 pick. By the way, this is a deep NBA draft class. There's 5 or 6 guys up front, but I end up in a year where there are at least 3 guys that I think are franchise changers. I end up with like a 60% chance of being at least inside the top 3. I end up at pick number 4, while the number 4 television market in America, Dallas-Fort Worth, who traded away Luka Doncic to the Lakers, a move that should have kicked the legs out from under that program for decades, is going to get Cooper Flagg.
So did you really believe that Charlotte had a chance? I mean, when I saw
a 14% chance.
Wow. Because when I saw this, I was not surprised. And I think a lot of people are not surprised.
I think the people who, and
and Ernst & Young will come through and say there was no chicanery. Everything was done on the up and up. It's all a matter of chance. And then it'll happen again and again and again and again.
I mean, probably. Like I said, my team has benefited from this twice. LeBron leaves Cleveland. They get the number one overall pick. Derrick Rose is coming out of college, hometown kid from Chicago, Illinois. The Bulls have been largely irrelevant since Jordan left? The Bulls have been irrelevant. When you know it, the Chicago Bulls. And I don't know what their odds to get Derrick Rose, because keep in mind, the system changed in 2019. We went with Adam Silver's new system, which flattened the odds in an effort to prevent teams further from tanking to give themselves the best odds at the 1 seed, right? You only so many teams, but you can have the level percentage chance.
I get it. Let's have an end season tournament of the worst teams, and the very worst gets the draft pick.
There have been conversations in sports before about having an anti-championship where the worst teams then play at the end of the year, and the winner, you turn it over. Whoever wins that tournament gets the one. Like, you're playing for the top draft picks.
Should be the loser of the thing. So 2 teams are out there trying to lose.
What are they? And you take.
And one
entertaining as hell.
One of them has to lose.
Entertaining as hell. But no, I mean, there's been a lot of theories about it. And at the end of the day, I am kind of reaching the spot now, because the whole premise has been try to stop teams from tanking. I'm at the point now where I'm like, let them tank. Honestly, let them tank. Because this is a Mavs team that played for the title last year in the NBA Finals. They trade Luka. And if somebody comes to me right now and they go, yo, the league told LA, trade Luka and we'll give you the number 1 overall pick and you can have Cooper Flagg, what's my pushback against that besides going, don't be silly. Don't be a silly goose. What's my pushback against that? Because that's what it looks like. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. JD, you're probably not wrong. That's part of the problem. That's why I'm at the point now where I've told little brother before, who's also a Pelicans fan, like, what's my point in investing anymore? What's my point of being a fan? I'll watch them if they're on for boredom and entertainment purposes. But like, what's my point of, what's the point of following this team and caring about them at all? I'll be right back. I haven't seen a lot of non-Marvel movies in cinemas the last year or two. I 100% will go see Karate Kid Legends in theaters.
Yeah, me too. And I haven't watched it. I watched like the first couple episodes of the Netflix series. Yeah, so I mean, that was a long time ago. Actually, I watched it when it was on YouTube before it went to Netflix. But yeah, I'm definitely interested.
Mm-hmm. You brought back all the OGs and added Jackie Chan? Yes.
Well, remember, Jackie Chan was in the remake. So, which wasn't really a remake. It was just in another place. I don't think it's out of the imagination that he and Miyagi know each other. I mean, depending on how the storytelling.
So from the preview scene, that's what it looks like
Yeah.
they're going to do.
Yeah.
Millions of parts, guaranteed to fit. I'm talking brake pads for when you wasn't seeing one too many miles of stop and go. Oil filters, because you don't mess around with your engine kit. Even got this cold air intake on my watch list. I might just go for it. To keep the ride cool and your DIY street hot. Find all the parts you need.
Started playing Oblivion again, and I forgot that you could accidentally become a vampire, and I accidentally became a vampire. And now I cannot cure vampirism. There is a way. I need 5 grand soul gems, but when I go try to buy them, they go, "Get away from me, you monster."
Oh.
Yeah, so.
The NBA will never compete with the NFL. And it's not just because basketball is always second place to football to most American sports fans. It's because of what happened last night. Last year, the number 1 overall pick was won by a team that had a 3% chance of winning the number 1 overall pick. This year, it was won by a team that had a 1.8% chance of winning the number 1 overall pick. And not just that, but both times it was won by a squad that comes from a big television market. I am at the point now, where whether I like it or not, I am beginning to accept whether it is Adam Silver, whether it is the NBA front office, or whether it is just the universe hating me, which I'm not giving up on that being a realistic possibility.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that.
It's a probability at this point. Whether it is Silver, the NBA, or the universe just hates me. I am starting to get to the point where I am accepting, not just rationalizing, accepting that the big market teams are always going to get their way. And what that says to me is this league is not interested in parity. This league is not interested in having as many good teams as is possible with the talent spread out. It says to me that this league is primarily interested in making sure that the biggest markets have dynastic teams. That's it. Because I'm running out of ways to explain how this happens otherwise. I am running out of ways to explain how it is that Dallas, a team that if karma was real, would be driven into the abyss for a decade. I'm running out of ways to justify things like what happened last night continuing to happen. Their fan base was shattered by the Luka Doncic trade. Their fan base was severed from their GM and from their front office by the Luka Doncic trade. And yet, here we go into the draft. 1.8% odds. Here's the second conspiracy theory, because this is the one that I also think people are going to be talking about today. San Antonio, a team that had the Rookie of the Year 2 years ago and the Rookie of the Year last year, has the number 2 overall pick. The San Antonio Spurs actually ended up with a couple of picks inside the first round, like good picks. And because of that, they have the 2 pick and they have the 14 pick. The San Antonio Spurs, of course, Greg Popovich was forced to retire due to health issues after his stroke a few months ago. The San Antonio Spurs are a team that is inside of a major television market. San Antonio registers inside the top 20. San Antonio has already frequently been linked to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis, a couple of days ago, the report comes out, a Shams bomb that says Giannis is interested in looking at possibilities outside of Milwaukee, away from the Bucks. And one of the first teams that was linked to Giannis Antetokounmpo were the San Antonio Spurs. So 2 days later, the Spurs end up not just with 2 top 14 picks, but they end up with pick number 2. I will go ahead right now, and we'll clip this and save this just in case. I will go ahead and say right now, if the San Antonio Spurs end up making a trade with the Milwaukee Bucks that gives, in a year where there is a good player available, actually there's a few good players available, but a very good player available at number 2. If the San Antonio Spurs make a trade with the Milwaukee Bucks that sends the 2nd overall pick to Milwaukee in return for Giannis Antetokounmpo, it is going to become even more difficult to beat the allegations that the league is rigged, if not outright scripted. It's just going to be tough to do it. The biggest teams keep eating, and the small town teams keep getting hammered. The draft lottery is, in theory, a good idea. But when these situations keep on, if this was a one-off circumstance that a team with 1.8% odds jumped up and grabbed the number 1 overall pick, if this was a one-off, I think we would look at it and be like, hey, it's a lottery, dude, right? Somebody wins the Powerball every 3-4 months. It's a lottery. Weird things happen. But this is consistent. This keeps happening. It keeps
consistent. It's obvious. I mean, whether it's true or not, it sure does look to most people, I'm guessing, that this is rigged.
Oh, yeah. I would agree with that.
I would like to hear from someone who adamantly defends the NBA and says there's no way it's leaked.
I do not have Adam Silver's phone number, but I got to imagine he's heading up that camp of 13 people. I'm running out of shots. I do not want to believe the NBA draft is rigged. I don't want to believe it. I would like to be able to work under the good faith belief that the NBA draft is not rigged. I would like to work under the belief that at the end of the day, everybody's got a shot. But it's real tough to do that right now. It's real difficult to do that right now. It feels like the Dallas Mavericks gave a generational superstar to the market that the NBA has made no secret is the most important to them, and they were rewarded with a number 1 overall draft pick. And not just a number 1 overall draft pick, but a number 1 overall draft pick in a year where there is a guy who is damn near consensus considered clearly the number 1 overall draft pick and a franchise maker if he works out. It doesn't make sense to me. And I guess part of that, like I am, for the record, like I as a Pelicans fan am hurt by it. But I'm bummed out for Charlotte fans. I'm bummed out because it feels like, yeah, you had a 14.2% chance to get the number 1 overall pick, like a 30-some-odd% chance to get number 2, and a better than 50% chance to be inside the top 3. You end up at 4. And I'm bummed out for you because it feels to me like Charlotte is actually trying. It feels to me like the Buzz are trying right now. They've went and they've got a bunch of good run. You know what it felt like? It felt like they built a bunch of good role players. They've got LaMelo Ball, who has, credit to him, despite the background that he comes from, turned into a pretty good player. If he's like Zion. If those ankles will ever stop giving out on him, it feels like LaMelo Ball could genuinely be a star. So you got a point guard. You got a 7-footer that the Lakers wanted. So you got a pretty good 7-footer in the middle. And now it feels like you just got to find your star that can play at the 2, 3, or 4 role. And this team might be pretty good. And you're going to draft just outside of the spot where those 3 exact guys are available. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. It's just the same teams that, by luck of the draw, keep getting rewarded, keep ending up in the same spots. It's and again, the reason that this is bothering me so much, is because I've always worked under the assumption, fair or not, I've always worked under the assumption that everybody legitimately has a shot. And now it's kind of not feeling that way. It's kind of not feeling that way. If not everybody has a shot, then yes, the NBA is pro wrestling, which I will watch for entertainment. I'll watch it for entertainment. I'll watch it because it is still the best basketball players on planet Earth playing hoops.
Okay, what else do you watch the NBA for other than entertainment?
Well, as a fan, I watch it with the belief that one day that could be my squad. One day that could be my team.
You get my point. You were saying that you made it sound like that there's a different way to watch it. I guess you could watch it if you're a bettor. You're watching it as a source of income.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to get to that. I mean, I absolutely could. As a guy who hosts a nationally syndicated betting show, I 1,000% could make the discussion about gambling and how if I'm going to gamble, then I'd like to be able to gamble at least under the misguided belief. But if they're capable of and willing to, and I'm not saying that they are. Let me be clear. I am not accusing the league of rigging the draft order lottery. What I am saying for sure. I'm not going to make that accusation for two reasons. Number one, because I don't want to. And number two, because I have to stick to my philosophical gun. I have nothing but circumstantial evidence right now. Granted, it is a mountain the size of Everest of circumstantial evidence. It is enough circumstantial evidence that I feel like it would be justified in bringing up in bleeping court proceedings. But I do not have hard verified evidence that the league is rigged. The second reason that I'm not going to outright accuse them of rigging the draft lottery is because I, just as a fan, hope it's not. I hope it's not. Because if it is, there is no reason to stay invested for anything more than it's Tuesday in May and there's nothing else on. The last couple of weeks, the big TVs got in the NBA. The two small TVs have gotten the NHL. I'm flipping that tonight.
What's more of a detriment, this or superstars going to a team and getting other superstars to go there? Because it seems like there's more of an outcry about that than there is about this.
I think it's both.
And also that, the superstar going to another team and getting other guys to go there, that seems to be more of a way to win a championship than the draft being rigged.
It's both. It's both, because all this creates is a world where the same teams are going to be in it every year. It's just going to be the same teams over and over. Sorry, Charlotte. Sorry, New Orleans. Sorry, Milwaukee. At least you got yours.
See, I get what you're saying, but we have a shot, as I was hoping for yesterday. We got a shot of getting some new teams in there to play for the championship this year. We absolutely do.
And yet,
because Boston goes down yesterday and they're the defending champs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, New York's got them on the ropes.
Yeah. And they lost Jason Tatum. That series is over. Your hope is Oklahoma City. Your hope is Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City right now is
But see, you're just rooting for small market. I don't care about that.
No, I know you don't.
Yeah, I would like to see a team get in there and win that hasn't won in a while.
I know you don't. I do. And maybe there is some level of selfish to this in that I have to come to grips with the belief that I'm never going to start an NBA season excited. I'm never again. I'm just never going to start an NBA season excited. It's just, you know what the NBA is for me? It's a video game, right? It's a video game. I go home and it's like, if I don't have anything more important to do, sure, I'll play some Marvel Rivals. I'll play some Rocket League. I'll play some Baldur's Gate. But like, I don't spend my whole day thinking about it. I spend my whole week thinking about NFL games. I spend my whole week. I rant and rage on the air about the Atlanta Braves. I spend time thinking about it and getting excited about that. I'm not excited about the NBA anymore. I will watch the best players do cool, awesome athletic things, but I'm not going to spend any time thinking about it other than the 2 hours they're playing hoops. All right, we're going to talk more about this later on in the show, because I got to tell you, if I'm Charlotte, like just cut the NBA down to 10 teams. Why even have other teams? Just cut it down to 10, put all the stars on those 10, and let's do it that way. That's where I'm at right now. You know where we're at right now? A sports flash from Lonzo.
For those of you who do care, whether it's rigged or not, the New York Knicks beat the Boston Celtics 121-113, taking a 3-1 series lead last night. And it gets worse for Boston as star Jason Tatum was carried off the court in immense pain with what is speculated to be an Achilles injury. The Minnesota Timberwolves led the Golden State Warriors 3 games 3-1 after a 117-110 win last night. Julius Randle had 31 and Anthony Edwards had 30 in the win. Carolina Hurricanes own a 3-1 series lead over the Washington Capitals. This is in the NHL. After a 5-2 win last night, Canes can close out the series Thursday night at Washington. And the Edmonton Oilers took a 3-1 series lead over the Vegas Golden Knights with a 3-1 shutout win last night. Adam Enrique had a pair of goals, and Evander Kane closed out the scoring, while Stuart Skinner saved all 23 shots fired. A lot of ways to rig things, I'm told. Weighted ping pong balls, a lot of things.
Retirement statements just hit mailboxes, and for many, the shock is real. Some investors lost 20% or more in just the first quarter. If you're close to retirement, that's more than a dip. It's a danger. But here's what most advisors won't tell you. Gold was up over 30% during the same time. That's a 60% swing. And in retirement, that kind of gap can change everything. So compare your Q1 statement to gold's performance. Then call Noble Gold Investments. Noble Gold specializes in helping people protect what they've earned with real assets like gold and silver. If you're tired of watching your nest egg shrink, it may be time for a change. And right now, when you open a qualified account, you'll receive a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar. Compare and call 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. Or visit NobleGoldInvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Did you know Greenfield County Animal Care has cats and dogs just waiting to find their forever family? When you adopt from Greenfield County Animal Care, you're getting an animal who has been spayed or neutered, is microchipped, and is up to date on vaccinations. Most pets can be brought home the same day you adopt. We do charge a small fee to adopt a pet to help us help more animals, but sometimes we have adoption specials and the fees are waived. As a service to veterans, all adoptions are free. Visit greenfieldpets.org to learn more. Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective. A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
This is the story of Luana. As a safety manager manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his co-workers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products with next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER or click Grainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Listen on the Odyssey app. Search the Fan Upstate. Unique and unlike any other sports talk show. It's BetMGM Tonight, Monday through Friday from 7 to 11, only on the Fan.
Upstate.
BetMGM Tonight is the red zone for casual and hardcore sports fans. Live sports betting updates for all of the night's games as they happen. The latest scores, sides, totals, props, parlays, features, and much more with real-time, relevant sports wagertainment tonight at 7. BetMGM Tonight, exclusively on the Fan.
Upstate.
And on the Odyssey app.
Upstate.
WIOD
WORD partner.
WFBC HD3 Hulu, the official sports voice of you, the Upstate Fan.
Upstate.
And Odyssey Sports Station.
Three friends, first break.
And check this out.
For an official Rob Brown Lowdown.
Yeah.
Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown.
Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show starts now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. The Hub City Spartanburger text line is open at 844-326-3663, 844-FANFONE. You can text that number. Get your text read on the air. You can call that number and get your voice heard on the air if you'd like to go in that direction. You can tweet the great one at Lonzo Onward. You can tweet me at The Rob Brown Show. You can tweet everybody at the station at The Fan Upstate if you'd like to come at us in that direction. And if you've got something a little more long format, but you don't want to get on the air with it, no worries. Hit me up, rob.brown at thefanupstate.com. Rob.brown at thefanupstate.com is the email address if you want to get at us in that direction. You are certainly welcome to do so. We are going to talk more about the NBA draft lottery, which went down last night, and controversy abounds. After Dallas wins the number 1 overall pick, San Antonio gets pick number 2, Philly pick number 3. And interestingly enough, all 3 of those had a lower statistical probability than Charlotte getting the number 1 overall pick. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail later on in the radio broadcast. We have got some news out of college sports that we're going to get to and more coming up here in just mere moments. But it is 7:02 in the morning. You have less than 58 minutes until you've got to be up, dressed, showered, have your breakfast, get on the road, get to the office, get into that chair, log in, respond to those passive-aggressive emails that coworkers sent you well after 5 o'clock yesterday and expected you to give up your free time in the evening to solve their problems. You didn't, and I respect you for it because you know you had to work today. So I'll take care of it today. So go in, spend like 6 to 7 minutes doing actual work, and then it's time. It's time to talk sports. And if you're going to talk sports with your coworkers, you got to know what's going on in the world of sports. And if you need to know what's going on in the world of sports, worry not, my dear friends. That's why Lonzo and I do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
You must chill!
even before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go!
Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
The water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports. Let's dive right in with item number 1. The NBA and NHL playoffs are underway. Last night, the New York Knicks pushed the reigning, defending, undisputed NBA champion Boston Celtics to the brink of elimination after winning 2 in Beantown, New York. Drop game 3, but they get game 4. 121-113 was your final. Another gem from Jalen Brunson, 39 points, a dozen dimes in this one. You got 23 out of Mikal Bridges, 23 out of Karl Anthony Towns, 20 out of OG Anunoby off of 8 of 14. That's about the shooting percentage of the Knicks, who ended the night with over 54% from the floor, 35% from three-point land. Boston got 23 from Derek White. They got 20 out of Jaylen Brown in 33 minutes. But the story of the night, undoubtedly, the fact that Jason Tatum looks to be done for the playoffs in the fourth quarter. When the the Celtics were struggling to get anything going in the clutch, Jason Tatum pushed off the back foot and immediately went to the ground in immense pain. He had to be carried off of the floor. He could not put any weight on that leg, was ultimately wheelchaired out of Madison Square Garden Arena and taken to a local hospital. We have not gotten an update on the injury yet. The Celtics have only said that it is a lower body injury, but have given no further details. But the sleuths on the internet said it looks remarkably like the injury sustained by Damian Lillard a few weeks ago. It looks very similar to the injury sustained by Aaron Rodgers at the beginning of last NFL season, and it is leading many to speculate that this is going to end up being a ruptured Achilles for Jason Tatum, which would end his season and likely end the season of the Boston Celtics, because unless Kristaps Porzingis is ready to step in and be a starter, 24 minutes, 7 points on 2 of 6 from the field last night, unless Peyton Pritchard is going to jump up and become an absolute monster for this team. Jason Tatum had 42 points last night. Pritchard had 12. Porzingis had 7. I got nothing for Boston. Jaylen Brown is going to have to be the best he's ever been. Derek White is going to have to be the best that they've ever been. Both of those guys had phenomenal runs to the postseason last year, but both of those guys had phenomenal runs to the postseason last year because Jason Tatum was a killer. Sans Tatum, I think the C's chance for a repeat are officially over. Then the late nighter, 117-110. The Minnesota Timberwolves have now pushed the Golden State Warriors to the brink of elimination, 3-1. That series is led by the Timberwolves. 31 out of Julius Randle, 30 out of Ant-Man Edwards, 11 for Mike Conley, 10 for Jaden McDaniels. Rudy Gobert had 8 in the center last night. You got 13 from Nickeil Alexander-Walker off the bench. Golden State is done. And again, if Steph Curry is able to come back, it would likely be Game 6. I said the minute that got announced, there is no Game 6 in this series. I feel more confident about it now, not because Minnesota has gotten Golden State on the brink of elimination. I say it because Jimmy Butler, who I have been absolutely a fan of for the last few years, Playoff Jimmy has become one of my favorite memes around the NBA, second only to Emo Jimmy that we get every year at Media Day. Jimmy Butler had 14 points last night. He was 5 of 9 from the floor, and he took no free throws no jump shots, no field goals in the fourth quarter. When Jimmy Butler had an opportunity to step up and make himself a Golden State Warriors icon. And for the record, this game was absolutely winnable for Golden State. Minnesota was not doing anything special last night. When this game was in the balance, when there was an opportunity for Jimmy Butler to take over and be him, Jimmy Butler didn't just disappear, but he actively played like he was afraid of the basket. It was bad. It was bad. Staying in item number 1 over to the NHL, the Edmonton Oilers, a 3-0 shutout over the Golden Knights of Las Vegas last night. Adam Henrique got the brace with 2 goals. Evander Kane got the goal that would blank the Vegas Golden Knights at 3-0. Edmonton now on top of Las Vegas, 3-1 in that series. And in the series most of you are paying attention to, the Carolina Hurricanes have pushed the Washington Capitals to the brink. They now lead with a 3-1 series lead. Taylor Hall, Seth Jarvis, Andrei Svechnikov, Shane Gostisbehere, and Sean Walker all scored last night. 5 goals, all from different goal scorers. Freddie Anderson faced 21 shots, stopped all but 2. One of the 2 that got through was an absolute bleep missile from Alexander Ovechkin on a Caps power play. The goals they scored were on power plays. The one issue that if this Carolina Hurricanes team does not make it to the Stanley Cup, the one issue that will prevent them from getting there is undisciplined hockey, giving up too many power plays. They had an opportunity last night to I think run away from Washington and leave no doubt in that game and in this series. And instead, they ended up committing a foul, going on the penalty kill, and then committing another within the penalty kill, giving Washington a 5-on-3 advantage. Ovi was able to hit the absolute snipe from the left circle, which is where he does that from all the time, and it made it a 1-goal game. Now, they were able to get it back shortly after, able to get an empty netter at the end to leave no doubt, but undisciplined hockey from Carolina, playing too far out in front of the skates is what has gotten them into trouble. If they can clean that up, this team is absolutely a Stanley Cup favorite. Let's get to item number 2. The NBA draft lottery is last night. The Dallas Mavericks, 3 months after trading Luka Doncic to the LA Lakers, end up with the number 1 overall pick. They entered the night with a 1.8% chance of winning the draft lottery. That was all that they needed, if you believe that the draft lottery is not rigged. San Antonio ended up with the number 2 pick. They had a 7.5% chance, to win that pick. They do. Philly had a 13% chance to win the 3 pick, and they did. All 3 of those were lesser percentage probability than the Charlotte Hornets getting the top spot. Charlotte instead ends up with pick number 4. Utah, Washington, New Orleans, Brooklyn, Toronto, and Houston round out your top 10 picks of the NBA draft lottery. There is a lot of conversation happening in the sports talkosphere this AM about the NBA draft lottery potentially being rigged. And we are going to get back into that conversation later on in the radio program. But let's finish it up with item number 3. NCAA President Charlie Baker said yesterday that he is, quote, up for anything, end quote, when asked about Donald Trump's proposed commission on collegiate athletics. Reports surfaced last week that Trump was interested in creating the commission after a conversation that he had with Nick Saban. Now it looks like Charlie Baker is willing to encourage that decision. He had a conversation at ACC meetings with league officials, men's and women's basketball coaches, athletic directors, and other school officials focused on governance and the pending House settlement. Baker was asked during an informal media availability for his thoughts on the presidential commission. Baker said, quote, I think that there is an interest on the executive side on this. I think it speaks to the fact that everybody is paying a lot of attention right now as to what's going on in college sports. I'm up for anything that can help get us somewhere. That was the conversation that took place yesterday, and we will continue to discuss this in the next segment. But Suffice to say, this really all comes down to, and it's not a conversation we haven't had on this show. This really all comes down to the fact that when all of these changes were put into place, they were put into the place as effectively a patchwork set of rules or lack thereof. And it has opened the door for schools and for states to basically, to some degree, craft their own rules within the college sports landscape. We told you yesterday, Arkansas, the state of Arkansas, has decided to pass a bill signed by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders that will not charge state income tax on NIL money distributed from the school to athletes. So after the House settlement comes through, and after we have an idea of how much is going to be owed to athletes and revenue sharing from the schools, Arkansas is the first state that I am aware of that has a state income tax. Arkansas is the first state that is going to say, but NIL money is not taxed. We will not be taxing state money. That is kind of the point that I made here, is that each state now has the opportunity to craft its own rules about NIL regulation, which some people are good with that, some people aren't. Some people lean on the state should have the right to do that. Other people lean on it and say, wait a minute. It is one thing if you want to run your universities outright that way. It is one thing if you want to run your institutes of higher learning that way. The problem is this has an impact on a thing we care more about than education, football. And you are giving yourself an advantage over the other states that maybe are unwilling to do that or incapable of doing that. We will find out if this commission actually becomes a thing. We have no idea who is going to sit on this commission. We have no idea who is going to be the chairperson of this commission. We have no idea what, if any, legislative powers this commission is going to have. And yet, Charlie Baker has jumped on it. And do you know who else has expressed openly support for it? Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the Athletic Coast Conference. He spoke yesterday at ACC meetings in Amelia Island, Florida. And when we come back, I have the audio of what Jim Phillips had to say about this commission. He was asked, what, if anything, do you think this commission can do? I'm going to play that audio for you, and I'm going to tell you why he has a point and also totally doesn't. We will do that when we come back. I'm Rob Brown, the great one Lonzo, on the ones and twos. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate.
Your friends.
All right, guys, quick live, and we're coming right back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. last week, Donald Trump, after a conversation with Nick Saban, said that he is considering creating a congressional committee on college athletics. And this congressional committee would have some level of, I don't want to use the word oversight, though I have heard that word thrown around, because honestly, I just don't know how much power it would have. It would have the right to create federal laws, but then, depending on which, if any, how many, and how hard in the paint they want to go, it would effectively lead to probably about a gazillion lawsuits. When the federal laws, if this commission suggests them, if Congress decides to take them up, if Congress decides to pass them, if the president decides to sign off on them, et cetera, et cetera. If those federal laws supersede state laws, you could end up having states that fire back. Long story short, phenomenal idea. But I continue to reiterate what I have reiterated over and over. The fact that you did not put the rules down at the beginning of all of this and mandate that the athletes, their parents, and the states fight against those rules one by one, and instead decided to institute very little in the way of laws, rules, guidelines, and instead will fight to institute them one by one and regulate things that these athletes, agents, parents, etc., have all already been benefiting from. It's going to make that litigation that much more difficult. Well, ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips was down at the ACC meetings taking place in Amelia Island yesterday. He was on the ACC network, and he was asked, are you in on the concept of a congressional committee? And if so, do you think that they can help?
I think they can help us, Pac. I really do. How? We have been very bold in the desire for a national standard when it comes to name, image, and likeness. We need to make sure we have something that comes out of Washington that connects all 50 of the states, because we've had a piecemeal project, and it's really undermined college sports, and it's been a race to the bottom. What you can do in one state is what you can't do in another state. There's 35 different interpretations across the country. So that's one. Two is we need some legal protection. We cannot sustain one legal case after another legal case after another legal case. And so I think that commission can help us there. A reaffirmation that these are student athletes. And yes, they're going to be compensated, which they well deserved. And I think everybody's excited about this idea that you can get up to $20.5 million and distribute it across your athletic department. But there needs to be this idea, this reaffirmation again of that these are students first that also play a sport that are being compensated. I don't like when we don't talk about academics, when we don't talk about graduation rates and that being part of the overall experience. So that reaffirmation. So those three things to me will be very important to see if that can come out of the commission.
Okay. So here's some takeaways. The first is everything he said, I don't disagree with. The concept of creating a national standard should have been done at the beginning of this. The fact that you did not do it at the beginning of this is going to be very tough. That is evidenced by the fact that you have had, as he called it, a race to the bottom, which, I mean, it's only a race to the bottom if you don't like what's happening. If you love what's happening, you feel great. It's a race to the top. But a race in whichever direction you want to say that they are racing. The fact that some states are willing to go way out of their way in order to give themselves an advantage. I look at Arkansas, as we talked about yesterday. The way that some schools are beginning to restructure the way that they handle their athletic department. I look at Kentucky. We talked about this one last week. The University of Kentucky is working on changing their athletic department into an LLC. a limited liability corporation. That allows them to operate as an outright business, but also be protected against some losses. Should they take a legal loss, etc., basically they'd be responsible for the losses, but they would not be obligated to give up their stuff in order to pay it off. It's a survival tactic mechanism. It is a way for them to continue to operate in the face of a major loss without having to shut it all down. And again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I am a corporate lawyer of any level. I'm not. But the fact that these guidelines, these regulations, these rules weren't put into place at the beginning, if you have an opening for someone in a competitive environment to take advantage of any circumstance or situation, you can go ahead and bet your backside they're absolutely going to do it. And so in order for the NCAA to put rules down now, they would get sued by everything, I assume, from players to players' parents to players' agents to outright state governments who say, whoa. If the NCAA tomorrow said, you can't make your athletic department an LLC, you think University of Kentucky is not going to sue for the right to do that? They think they've stumbled on gold here. Or any of the other schools that will likely be following once they see how this works out for Kentucky. Of course they will. So the thought, I think, that a lot of these folks are having, Jim Phillips, Charlie Baker, president of the NCAA, etc., I think the thoughts that they are having right now are that a presidential committee or a congressional committee would be able to step in and say, these are the rules now. And that's not really going to be the case, I don't think. Again, not a legal scholar, not an attorney. But just based on my understanding of all this, I do not think that either sort of committee, a presidential committee or a congressional, and by the way, a presidential committee, if it ends up being a presidential committee has zero legislative power. A presidential committee is structured and designed to provide the president with guidance, advice, whatever, for him to then take to the Congress and say, here is what I would like to see happen. So the only committee that would have any sort of power would be a congressional committee, and that's only because lawmakers would sit on it. And again, you still face the problem of those lawmakers each coming from different states, meaning that they may very well just go, I'm going to vote for whatever's in the best interest of making my state's schools athletics department as well off as possible. I would love to see a national standard. The one of the reasons that I've said for a very long time that the National Football League is better football than the college sport. A, less teams, so the talent is not as separated out. But B, because there is a standard across the NFL. Every team operates under the same revenue sharing deal with the same amount of income, the same salary cap that can be distributed to players, etc. And good GMs find ways to work through and around that. But they all have the same set of rules. Right now, that is obviously not the case with college football. The only way I think it will end up becoming the case is if they end up corporatizing college football. If they end up corporatizing college football, which would be the step that you take to then make the employees, players, actual employees, which Jim Phillips said in that clip there, I want to go back to focusing on these people being student athletes. In the landscape of football, and I think basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey, field hockey, track and field, swimming and diving, whatever, these are all going to be handled different ways just because of what they are. But as far as the take here from Jim Phillips, it's the best hope you got, and I don't think it's that great of a hope. This is going to take years to figure out some sort of compromise. Texter said, Rob, I was only listening because I thought you were a corporate lawyer. I didn't have the patience or attention span for law school. Texter said, I'm with Rob. This would have been a much better idea 8 years ago. Yeah, well, I said it 8 years ago. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Went up there to take my stuff, and then I didn't do that. Be right back, dudes and dudettes.
physical gold or silver. No high-pressure sales, no call centers, just honest guidance, one-on-one support, and transparent pricing. And right now, when you open a qualified account, Noble Gold will send you a free 10-ounce silver.
I smell blood, which I think means my nose may start bleeding here in a minute. So if you see me get up and go over there,
yep,
I'm hemorrhaging from my skull.
I'm not a doctor, but that seems less than ideal.
Well, when your sinuses have been so messed up.
Yeah.
I guess technically when you bleed from the nose, you are hemorrhaging, aren't you?
Hey, Google. What's the definition of a hemorrhage? Bleeding or blood loss? I guess just blood loss is hemorrhage?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I've never thought
specifically
of it
from the
before,
circulatory system due to a damaged blood vessel.
which I think is where a nosebleed comes
Yep.
from. So,
Yep.
I mean, yeah,
I'm going to bring us back by saying Lonzo's hemorrhaging, you guys.
I don't think I am, but, you know.
The Hot Rod Brown Show continues. Rob, Lonzo, and you. Texter said, I'm with Rob. This would have been a much better idea 8 years ago. Also, I was a corporate lawyer for 17 years. You didn't miss a Dawn thing. I don't think he meant Dawn there, but it worked out. We get it.
I wonder what he or she are doing now.
Listening to Sports Talk Radio in the mornings, which is good for us.
Retired or like running a hot dog stand or something. I mean, change of pace.
Change of pace. I listened to the commentary of Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, yesterday. I listened to Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the Atlantic Coast Conference, yesterday. And I don't think either one of these gentlemen are dumb. I don't think you can make it to that position without being anything but very smart, very intelligent. But I also think that you've got a pretty good illustration of where we are based on the way that two very intelligent individuals, Phillips and Baker, were talking yesterday. Both of them asked about the potential presidential or congressional committees proposed by Donald Trump. It sounds as if both of them feel like it is either a one-stop fix-it-all or, potentially worse, a Hail Mary, right? Like we are out of other ideas. And I don't know what went into or did not go into the NCAA's process moving towards name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal. I do not know what, if any, thought was given into potential ramifications once whatever the House settlement ends up finishing up looking like finishes up. But it does increasingly feel like the answer to that is none. There was no thought put towards it. There was nothing given towards it. It was effectively a, yeah, y'all go bananas. Go have a great time. Let us know how that works out for y'all. This is the reason that I am always willing to absolutely wreck the NCAA and call it a feckless, toothless organization. They should have been fighting their asses off when NIL was coming to the table. It got to the point where it became very clear and very obvious that this is happening. There is too much legislation that is going the other way, and whether you like it or not, and whether it is true about this region or not, nationally, the popular perception and opinion was that college athletes deserve some sort of compensation. Now, the argument for years has been that college athletics don't bring in nearly the amount of money that you think that they do. And so even I have pushed back in certain spots. You're not going to be able to justify providing tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars to swimming and diving athletes. Those teams do not generate $1 of revenue. And I know that they are featured on the SEC network, the ACC network, the Big Ten network, the Longhorn network, and whatever other networks you might jump on board with. But they're there to fill up those networks. Those networks are driven by football, to a lesser degree basketball, and to an even lesser degree baseball. But the other side of that coin is, what's Jim Phillips' paycheck? What's that paycheck? What's the athletic director's paycheck look like? What does the college football playoff committee's paychecks look like? There are billions of dollars thrown around because of these sports. And the people who play them, the actual reason that y'all chime in, that y'all watch, that y'all listen to Sports Talk Radio, got nothing. Well, Rob, they got free room and board. Okay, fine. Sure. So do a lot of other kids.
and, all their schooling paid for,
Yeah.
and stipends and facilities, and, that other kids don't get to go into. It's like an exclusive club, if you will.
Wish I was in an exclusive club with facilities.
And they get to travel without having to pay for the travel.
Yeah, we all know those are just joy rides. All the funds. Well, again, it may not be popular.
I haven't been on a jet flying somewhere to go play football.
Okay, that's on you. You don't like jet. You don't want to get on a jet.
No, I'm not talented enough to do that. Thank you, but neither are you. So there.
Billions of dollars being thrown around. Again, you don't have to like it or agree with it. The national conversation at large was these kids deserve a slice of the pie.
You know what bothered me the most from the sound clip you played was the fact that he wanted to make sure that we talk about them as students first, which means that a good portion of the voices now are finally speaking out and saying that they're employees because that's what they are. You can make an emphasis on, can we just refer to them as students? They are students. I'm guessing they go to class. I don't know. And if they're registered, I guess that makes you a student. But he really was adamant about that point.
I mean, we ain't come here to play school. They are adamant about that point. And I do think I have a working theory as to why they are adamant about that point. And that working theory is because if you can define them as student athletes who are compensated, if they end up getting defined as employees, that at some point down the line, they will become eligible for employee protections and benefits. At some point, you will have to provide them with benefits and protections that even if they are compensated, they may not be provided with ultimately. That is my working theory. I cannot say that is for certain why Jim Phillips is adamant that they are continued to be referred to as student athletes. I would love to be able to believe that it was genuinely because they are of the mindset that even if these athletes are being compensated, we still care about their education and futures. I'd like to believe that because in a perfect world, that would be the case. I don't know that it is. I don't know that it's not. But the biggest point to me, at least that jumped off the page at me, was the tone of both Charlie Baker and Jim Phillips. The tone that they sounded like they to some degree believe that this congressional committee, presidential committee, whatever type of committee it ends up being, they believe that this is either a quick fix for all of it or that this is the Hail Mary to fix all of it. There's gonna be a solution at some point. I have no idea what that solution looks like. Do I think this committee or the executive order issued by Donald Trump fixes anything? No. What I do think it might do, either one of them, the EO or the committee, is kick off a potentially years-long series of lawsuits, legal debates, that may ultimately end up with us having some sort of national or federal guidelines that all schools, regardless of state or affiliation, must follow. But like with anything else in this country, it is going to be a wildly polarizing topic. You are going to have people approaching it from 1,000 different political philosophies. And it is going to take a lot of debated hours in front of a lot of judges in a lot of different courtrooms before we can, if we can, end up with a compromise. This is the reality that a lot of us were trying to scream a couple of years ago. When, even those of us that are pro NIL, pro portal, whatever, we're yelling, if you do not put the guidelines down now, you will never get back to a spot where they are easy to put down. This is what we meant. This is where we are. So when I hear Jim Phillips give his clip when I hear Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, both say we are, and I'm going to use Charlie Baker's exact words here, we're up for anything. I'm a semantics guy. I'm a words guy. The words that you use are important. The words that you use can mean things. I also believe that the words that you use can go a long way in telling people where or what you actually are. When Charlie Baker says, we are up for anything, do you know what I hear? What I hear is, because we have nothing in the plans right now. We have no plans here. We have no thoughts. We have no responses. We just kind of are where we are. That's what I hear. And the unfortunate news for those of you that are disgusted, unhappy, whatever level of disdain you may hold right now about the landscape of college athletics. The bad news for you is that the one governing agency that was supposed to be in charge of all of this, that was supposed to be able to regulate all of this, has pretty much just openly said that they got nothing for you. They got no plans. They got no structure. And a lot of that may have to do with the fact that the House settlement has not been finalized. And they can't really start, potentially, they can't really start to develop the next round of plans to fix or change or enhance college sports until the House settlement is finished. Because again, as John Blau told us on Monday during his segment, there is still a very good chance that Judge Claudia Wilken, who is overseeing the House settlement, there's still a very good chance that the NCAA comes back with their proposed changes to the roster limitation clause of the settlement. And she goes, you know what? Not only is this not good enough, but this isn't good enough. And I feel like you're trying to get one over here. So screw it. We're going to go to trial. We're going to take this thing and you're going to have to argue in front of a judge. And as you could hear in the, I say, almost desperation in Jim Phillips' voice there, they're getting smoked in courtrooms. They're getting hammered in courtrooms right now. They've lost most of the litigation that student athletes, student athletes' families, and that student athletes' agents have brought in front of them. They've lost it. And so if the House settlement ends up going to a trial, there are a lot of people who are working under the assumption that the NCAA will lose that as well. And if they lose that as well, everything that we thought was coming via House settlement structure goes right back out the window. And if that's the case, we end up in a spot where we're right back into the abyss, right back into the unknown, right back to having no idea what comes next. So, again, the only takeaway that I had out of these quotes from Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, the only thing that I took away out of these quotes from Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, was very simply that they genuinely have nothing on the table. They have no ideas. They have no thoughts. They have no process towards moving towards a fix or fixes. They do not know where to go from here. And that just feels painfully obvious to me. This committee, again, presidential or congressional, irrelevant, it's not going to have the power that they hope that it does, which leads me to believe that for them, it is either a Hail Mary or they are hoping that some entities at the federal level, whether it is legislative, executive, or judicial, some level of the federal is going to say, yeah, we understand that you states have already started to craft your individual rules, but we don't care. This is something that impacts everyone on a national level. Therefore, our rules supersede yours, and a judge somewhere signs off and agrees on that. So we'll see how it plays out. We will also see. Segue. We will all. We'll also see what's happening in the world with this sports flash. Not my best effort.
Good call. No fun here. In the NBA last night, the New York Knicks beat the Boston Celtics 121-113, taking a 3-1 series lead. And it gets worse for Boston as star Jason Tatum was carried off the court in immense pain with what is speculated to be an Achilles injury. Minnesota Timberwolves lead the Golden State Warriors 3-1 after a 117-110 win last night. Julius Randle had 31 and Anthony Edwards had 30 in the win. In the NHL playoffs, the Carolina Hurricanes on a 3-1 series lead over the Washington Capitals after a 5-2 win last night. Canes can close it out Thursday night at Washington. The Edmonton Oilers took a 3-1 series lead over the Las Vegas Golden Knights with a 3-0 shutout win last night. Adam Heinrich, had a pair of goals, and Evander Kane closed out the scoring while Stuart Skinner saved all 23 shots on goal.
Later, President John Adams declared that the federal government had 1 month to move from their current home in Philadelphia to their new home in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was made up of land donated by Virginia and Maryland. The land was handpicked by George Washington, declared an official city in 1790, and construction began in 1793 when George Washington placed the first cornerstone of the future U.S. Capitol building. As the move took place from Philadelphia to D.C., documents and archives were transferred by ship through inland waterways. By today's standards, it may seem like a Herculean task, but at the time, there were only 125 federal employees. Philadelphia was officially closed as the U.S. Capitol on June 11, 1800, and the federal government resumed operations in D.C. on June 15. The president and Abigail Adams didn't move into the White House till November due to it being unfinished. This has been a Bite Out of History with Ingles Markets.
For over 8 years, QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in non-surgical relief for joint pain with over 50,000 satisfied patients. People with knee and back pain now living pain-free.
Good morning, Stephen.
Pain gone. Hey, it's Charlie James. What they're doing is nothing short of remarkable. They're using regenerative cells.
So the pictures on the windows, if the rain comes in a certain way, the water just collects and you can't see outside. So I have no idea what kind of day it is out there. I think I see clear skies, but I could be wrong.
Imagine doing all the things you enjoy yourself without being slowed down by that awful joint pain in your knees or your back. Call QC Kinetics now and learn about these cutting-edge treatments that can help you live your best life. Call 864-448-3772.
Notice one of my puddles was getting low.
448-3772. That's 864-448-3772.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional grade products he needs. Plus fast, dependable delivery. So he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or stop by.
Found a way to get my cat to stop bugging me.
That is?
She doesn't want me to put a blanket on her. If I go to put a blanket on her, she just runs away. Like, cool.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, HIMS can help. Through HIMS.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at hims.com/joy, and from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free.
Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but Hims can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com.
I don't know how bad that really hurts running into the wall trying to catch a ball.
There's padding on him, but it's not thick.
It's not like in the natural where Bump, whatever his name was, went through the wall and died. Although I suppose that could happen.
W246CB Spartanburg. And Odyssey Sports Nation.
Man, check this out.
You're on official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents Freedom Radio.
Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. 844-326-3663 is the number to the Hub City Spartanburger text line. 844-326-3663. You can text that number, and I will read it on the air. You can also call that number and go live on the show. We are going to talk a little Clemson and South Carolina baseball in this hour of the show. South Carolina has a, you know what? I was going to say it's a must-win game coming up for the Gamecocks, a midweeker. I'm going to keep it a buck. I don't know that it matters if they win or lose. Somebody said yesterday to me that the firing of Paul Mainieri, which they believe is at this point close to inevitable, they believe that the firing of Paul Mainieri might be the least controversial firing in the history of South Carolina athletics. A $5 million payout for a baseball coach who has been in the dugout for 1 year may be the least controversial firing in the history of the school. And I got to tell you, it's hard for me to disagree. Taking on the Winthrop Eagles today at Founders Park, that game at 6:30 p.m. Of course, it comes after getting swept by Auburn, getting swept by Florida. And unfortunately, you've got the LSU Tigers coming into Columbia, South Carolina this weekend for the season finale. Fortunately, it is at home. Unfortunately, that is the same home that the Florida Gators hung a 23 on you just a couple of weekends ago. It's just not good enough, man. And it's not good enough in the fact that you're not seeing improvement of any type. I have made the argument, will continue to make the argument, regime changes are tough. Changing your head coach is tough because you're not just changing what the head coach is, who the head coach is. You're changing everything about the culture within a program. And that takes time. This is why, for instance, I am not freaking out about Alabama football with the change from Nick Saban to Kalen DeBoer coming over from Washington. Because Nick Saban had a very specific culture and way of doing things. Kalen DeBoer has a very specific culture and way of doing things. It is going to take some time to go from the dictator, a guy who was in charge of every tiny little detail of his program, to Kalen DeBoer, who is much more of a loosey-goosey type. Do I think he's a good coach? I do. I think Bama fans are going to have to just accept at some point that you were very fortunate, blessed by the football gods to have had the GOAT there for as long as you had the GOAT there. But it is a complete and total culture change. However, I would be comfortable saying that Alabama football progressed from week 1 to week 14 of the regular season. I would be comfortable saying Alabama football, at least to me, looked much more comfortable, looked more like a talented football team the later they got into the year. I do not care about the bowl game. I do not care about bowl results. It takes time. It takes guys who were already in the program learning about the way things are going to be moved forward.
Wait, they weren't in the playoffs?
I mean, like I said, good team. Good team. I think when you look at the shift, it is guys that are in the program that have been accustomed to things being run, operated, executed a certain way that have to learn how to do it the new way. It is the new guys coming into the program, whether they are transfer guys, scholarship guys, high school recruits, whatever, that have to get used to a new surrounding. And it is taking those groups of guys and getting them on the same page together. It takes time. But a coach should be able to show you some level of improvement from one stage to the next. And my question for Gamecock baseball fans right now would be, if I asked you to give me a silver lining, if I asked you to give me a spot that you would say this team got better as the year progressed, just not even overall, just a thing, hitting, pitching, fielding, running, whatever, could you do it? Could you even right now? And I'll compare him to the baseball team. When Shane Beamer showed up, there was excitement, there was electricity, there was energy. And Shane Beamer transferred all of that to the football team, and it stuck around. And so even if the results have taken a little bit of time, which, by the way, South Carolina is, Josh Pate had them at number 18 in his post, I shouldn't say preseason, I should say post-spring poll. Even if the results took a little bit of time, you could see the improvement to get there. Carolina Panthers, regime change took some time. I will say that right now, in my opinion, Panther fans are as excited about their football program as they have been since Cam Newton left. Why? Because Dave Canales, in year 1, the team showed improvement week after week. It showed an upward trajectory. Maybe you didn't get to where you wanted to be, but you showed upward trajectory week after week that felt tangible. Not only can I not say that about South Carolina, I can say this team got worse. This team's gotten worse throughout the course of the year. What that ordinarily...
Talk about the baseball.
The baseball team, yeah. Talking about the baseball team, this team got, I think, objectively worse as the season rolled on. And if the team's getting objectively worse as the season rolls on, what that tells me is that the team is bought out. The team is cashed out. The guys in the locker room are not, they're just not in it. They're just not there. They've checked out. They've moved on to whatever's next for them, whether it's next season, whether it's moving up to the league, whether it's graduating and becoming a pro in something else. Whatever their justification is for it, this tells me that this team has zero belief in itself, has zero motivation. It doesn't look like, and I don't want to overstep here, but it doesn't look like or play like a team that has any sort of pride in itself. And if that is the case, that is 100,000% something that sits at the feet of the head coach in the baseball of the manager. 100%. So, look, I'm not going to say you're going to drop one to Winthrop. I also wouldn't have said Clemson was going to drop one to Coastal this week. You beat Charleston Southern. You dropped 2 of the 3 against Kentucky. You scraped by UNF. I mean, you did go to Ole Miss, or excuse me, you did have Ole Miss come to you and take 2 out of the 3, but you got swept by A&M. You dropped 2 out of the 3 against Mississippi State. The Southeastern Conference is, without a doubt, the best baseball conference in NCAA baseball. It is a tough place to play. You've won 5 SEC games. You've won 5 SEC games out of what? 27 efforts? That's not good enough. You are 500 as a baseball team. That includes your preseason, when you had teams like Sacred Heart, Queens, Milwaukee, Gardner-Webb, Davidson, the Citadel, Morehead State, Georgia State, College of Charleston. That's your out of conference schedule. You're 26-26. It's just not good enough. And while I understand that $5 million is a hell of a buyout for a college baseball program, and I will acknowledge I have not been to Founders Park yet this year. I have been, over the past couple of years, I have gone over for at least one game a year. At least one game a year, I get to Doug Kingsmore. At least one game a year, I get to Founders. I have done my Clemson game this year. I have not been over to Founders. Mainly because it's usually I wait till about midway through the conference schedule and I get over there for both teams when they are taking on in a homestand one of the better teams out of conference or in conference. It's been hard for me to justify getting over there for the South Carolina team when you're giving up 23 against Florida, 24 against Auburn. It is a team that is not just playing poor baseball. It is a team that appears to be checked out. And when I have watched the football program the last 2 years, with the fan base that seems to be, stop me if I'm going too far, 100% bought in to the way things are going. And yes, you can say it was because you got 1 year out of G.G. Jackson and South Carolina was a borderline tournament team. On the men's side, it felt like the basketball team had everything going right for it this year. Yeah, there was a fall off this year, no doubt about it. But it was a fall off because you lost an NBA caliber player and you had no point guards. Lamont Paris is going to have to work some magic getting set for next year to bring that back. But even still, I did not hear Carolina fans talking about their basketball team with the fall off they had from 2023 into 2024. I did not hear them talking with the same level of pessimism and negativity, jumping off the ship. I didn't hear that. I hear that with the baseball program right now. I know it's a lot of money, but I'm at the point now, and yes, I know we talked about this once already. Paul Maneri was on a radio show over in Columbia, and they said, are you done? Was this enough to get you out of there? I don't remember exactly how the question was phrased, but it was a very polite radio way of saying, are you leaving? And Maneri said, I'm not going anywhere. Nothing's going to change. What else is he going to say, right? The season is still ongoing. What else is he going to say at that point? Yeah, this sucks. I'm not having fun. I'm out. No, of course he's not. Because if nothing else, he's going to make South Carolina fire him and give him that $5 million buyout. Of course he's going to say, I'm sticking around. I don't know how you let him. For a baseball team that is not tragically far removed from trips to the Super Regionals. For a baseball team that 2 years ago genuinely made the argument that our team is more than good enough to be a regional, super regional team, maybe an Omaha squad. If only we had a head coach who knew how to handle the controls. And then moved on from that head coach. I can say now it is a head coaching issue. This was my concern at the time of the hiring, and my deepest fears about the hiring, it feels like, have come true. What do? You're not hitting the ball well. Your pitchers keep getting put into spots where they cannot succeed. And I guess the worst part of it for me, and again, I'm not in the locker room, so I don't know, but damn, it feels like this team is just giving up. It feels like this team is basically like, let's fulfill our obligations and get to the end of the year. Let's just finish this thing up. At this point, winning the AC or the SEC tournament is the only hope for a postseason run. And let's keep it a buck right now. Any of y'all believe you've got a shot as even a Cinderella in the SEC tournament right now? Anybody have a shot? Anybody have a belief that there's even a shot at a miracle run in this team right now? I don't, because it feels like this team has given up. And I will, as much as I am always willing to say, things can go wrong that get blamed on the head coach that aren't the head coach's fault. If a team quits, it's on the head coach. It's just it for me. If a team quits, I dump it on the head of the HC. And unfortunately, it feels like this team has given up, which I put on Palmineri. I was excited about it. I was cautiously optimistic about it. I gave you my concerns when he got hired. The guy had not achieved anything since 2017. He had been out of college baseball for a couple of years. In those couple of years, the entire college sports landscape had shifted dramatically. And what happens if you finish this year? I'll even be willing to say, probably getting swept by LSU. They're playing good basketball right now. In order to finish 500, you have to take 2 out of tonight versus Winthrop and at home against the number 1 team in America. If you don't take 2, you finish sub 500. How's the recruiting going to turn out if you're sub 500 and you keep the same coach? How is the transfer portal going to work for you if you are sub 500? What's the attraction to get kids to want to come play here if you're sub 500 and the same guy's in charge? I don't know what it looks like. What I do know is the spot you're in right now is a real bad one. And unfortunately, while I'm always willing to give a grace period to the new man in the visor, or in this case, the biggest baseball cap, I got nothing to do that with right now. I got nothing to lean on right now and say, here's why there needs to be a year of grace period. The team's not getting better. The team feels to me as if it is quit. What do you want? At Winthrop tonight, got to get a dub, and then you got to take at least 1 out of the 3 against LSU, and I'm going to keep it a buck. That's a tall order. Take a break. Back after this. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. Who would want to pay to watch a team lose? Cleveland Browns fans. Hey-o. The what now?
Outside. Sunshine. On my shoulder.
Makes me happy. Nailed it. So Lonzo and I were talking during the break, and I am having a genuine struggle right now because one of my things is upsetting people who believe in conspiracy theories. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite things to do. There was a time, I've told this story before, where I was downtown at Falls Park, and there was a table full of flat earthers. And I have never had more fun in my life than I did when I got to sit there and talk with and, frankly, embarrass a group of flat earthers. It made my whole year. I love it. However, with the NBA draft going down last night and the Dallas Mavericks getting the 1 pick, the San Antonio Spurs getting the 2 pick, and the Philadelphia 76ers getting the 3 pick, when all of us have pretty much reached the conclusion that Joel Embiid is cooked as a player. Those 3 picks working out that way, all 3 of them, by the way, had lower odds to land just in the position that they landed in than the Charlotte Hornets had to land at the 1 spot by itself. I am having a real issue this morning with conspiracy theories because even I am at a spot right now where I am looking at this and going, that is a Himalayan mountain-sized mountain of evidence. It may be coincidental evidence, but it's evidence nonetheless. And during the break, as we were having our little jokes there, Lonzo informed me that there's a little conspiracy theory, and I use that term both literally and metaphorically, brewing in his family right now that I adore.
All right. So in case you don't know, listeners, I babysit every night or afternoon. And my granddaughter, who is 6, she's finishing up 1st grade. And I heard a noise as we were going in. And I said, I think that might have been an owl. And she said, owls aren't real. And I'm like, yeah, owls are real. And then I wanted to prove her. So I went to YouTube and started showing her a bunch of owl stuff. And she's like, no, that's a computer thing. I watch that kind of stuff all the time. It's like, no, it's an owl. Owls are really birds. That thing is really turning its head all the way around. It's weird, but it can do that. And so a series of videos from nature programs to kids shorts to finally I found Blippi, who I cannot stand Blippi. If you are a parent or a grandparent, you know who Blippi is.
Which one's Blippi?
He's very exaggerative the way he talks. He dresses almost like a clown, not quite. But because of my illness right now, I'm not going to attempt it. I probably could hit that height, but then I would die. So Blippi is pretty annoying, and he talks very simple, and because he's for little kids, really little
So
kids.
this is not a cartoon. This is a real person.
No, it's a person.
Okay.
If you look up Blippi, you'll see a picture.
Okay,
of
just
him.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
He dresses like half of New York Knicks fans.
Yeah, so clownish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he went to I guess it was like an owl zoo. It was like a bird zoo,
Like a
an
conservatory
aviary
kind of deal?
It might have been a conservatory, and they had a bunch of
owls.
No, I was
Birds?
thinking, yeah, there were owls, but the people who were showing the owls were like commune type people. I'm just saying they were
ornithologist.
No, these are people who probably live with those birds, so out in the wild. But anyhow, I got to show her a barn owl and tell her there's a good chance that there's a barn owl out here, because I've seen owls.
Yeah,
and she hasn't seen them. Now I remember. I said if the cat got out, an owl might get her. And there's no way. My cat is way too big for an owl to get it. But I was explaining it to her about an owl, and she's like, well, I would go up and hug that owl. I was like, no, those owls have claws that could scratch you and it would hurt pretty bad. If you see an owl, you probably shouldn't go up and try to hug it. So we had a wonderful conversation, but it all stemmed from her saying owls aren't real.
So I have for a long time heard the conspiracy theory that birds aren't real. Government drones.
Pigeon babies. No one's ever seen a pigeon baby.
So about 2 years ago, I was in Charleston, South Carolina. The wife and I went over to Charleston to spend a weekend with her family, and I went over there to participate in a photography workshop. Friend of the show, Susan. You guys know Susan. She's been attending sporting events. She's a sports photographer, but she also runs a photography class. And she, a couple of years ago, was running one in Charleston, so I went over there to be a part of it. And we were downtown shooting a photo shoot. She had some models lined up because I've always done landscape stuff. I wanted to learn how to do headshots and whatnot. And so we were doing these different classes. One of them was downtown shooting people in an urban environment. And we were standing on the side of the road in downtown Charleston, and I had the model that I was working with lean up on a lamppost. And as I took the photo, I ended up finding a shot of her that hilariously and unintentionally got framed with a sticker on the windowsill. On the lamppost that said "Birds aren't real," and it had a website on it. And I have saved that picture because I was like, I'm going to visit that website. Well, eventually I did. And I've come to the conclusion that while I understand that people say funny things on the internet for comedy's sake, when I went to this website, I came to the realization that I'm like 89.5% confident these people genuinely believe that birds aren't real. Like genuinely believe that birds are government drones. One argument on the website was, and it destroyed me as a person, but I genuinely laughed out loud. One person said, on the list of evidences as to why birds are secretly government drones, one of the arguments was, you do not see regular birds at night. The only birds you see at night are birds with real big eyes. And the two reasons they said were, that's because the regular birds, drones, the government calls them back to charge their batteries, and the drones that are at night, the ones with the big eyes, that's so they can fit bigger cameras into their head. And I'm like, that's how eyes work, right? That's how eyes work. And the regular birds, they're sleeping. That's what things do at night. They sleep. Like, we're not the only things that sleep at night, but these people were genuinely in. I love that somehow, somewhere, at some point, Lonzo's very intelligent, I've met her multiple times, an adorable granddaughter picked up on the conspiracy theory that birds aren't real. And was committed to it.
Yes. Well, there may be another thing of her spending a lot of time with me. Not that I make things up, because I'm not imaginative at all, as you guys have noticed. So it may be a little bit of that. It was deadpan, straight in the eyes. No, that's not real.
It's incredible.
It's like, okay, all right. Let's sit down and have some education. And now I also know that maybe I take her to a petting zoo, so where she can actually see an owl in real life.
So we have one that lives in our backyard, up in one of the trees, and it comes down and it hilariously lands. We have a big bird feeder out in the backyard because my wife and I, both being 40, not only do we literally sit at the back door and watch the birds, but I have an app that you push listen, and I hold my phone out the door and it listens to the bird calls and it will identify what bird I'm listening to. That's the phase I'm at in my life right now. So we have an owl that at night will come down.
And soon you'll be hitting that cafeteria.
Dude, I'd be lying to tell you. I didn't drive home the other day, and it's a road I used to take when I lived in my apartment before I moved in with the wife. But there is a cafeteria, and I cannot remember the name of it. It's like a letter and letter.
Like K&G or
something like that.
Yeah.
But I drove by it the other day. I happened to randomly have to go to that side of town, and I drove by that, and I would be lying through my teeth to tell you something in me didn't go, I bet lunch would be pretty good in there. Like, I bet it's pretty good, pretty cheap, pretty fast. Get what I want, get
Variety,
in, get out. Yeah. Oh, dude, so that's the stage I'm at in my life, which is rough for me as somebody who can still very clearly remember the days when I was cool. If you'd have told me at 35, there will come a day where you and your wife will excitedly both briskly, you don't want to run, you don't want to scare the bird off that they're looking at the window, briskly walk to the back door because, it's the first red bird of the season. We got to go see it. I'm that guy. But I adore the fact that Lonzo has got a little conspiracy theorist in his family that picked up the birds aren't real. So every time that another dumb conspiracy comes up on this show, and the great one over here leans into that conspiracy theory to have some fun, I just want to remind everybody that when the granddaughter said owls aren't real because birds aren't real, Lonzo went full educator on her. Like, me and Blippi, we're going to solve this right now. Right now. Also, I totally have a Blippi episode pulled up on YouTube, and now I have to find out what this Blippi cat's all about. So we'll do that during the break. I know all about what's the dog? Bluey. That's where my head went initially.
Yeah,
I went straight to Bluey.
Bluey is awesome, except for the death episode. It's rough. But everything else is pretty awesome.
All my friends with kids swear to me that Blippi's just genuinely a good show. Like, it's just entertaining. I was a big Phineas and Ferb guy.
You're talking about Bluey. Yeah. Bluey is. Blippi is not.
Yeah. I've heard Bluey is just like genuinely a good show. It's like, even if you're an adult and your kid's not around, you can still be like, it's pretty good. I guess they're what, like Australian dogs? I don't know. Anyway. We got to run to a break. When we come back here in a minute, I want to get back to this NBA draft lottery thing. The NBA cannot ever compete as a top-tier American professional sport again after what happened last night. And I'll tell you why when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Yeah, you got to listen to Blippi a little bit to understand.
Oh, yeah, I know. I pulled him up. I'm totally going to. Go back to my regular speakers.
I don't know that Rob looks like him, Andrew. That's kind of mean.
Like Blippi? I'm looking at it right now. I kind of get it. You know what it is? It's the
glasses.
It's the facial structure, but also the color glasses. Those are two different colors, Blippi. Are they white or are they gray, Blippi? Okay, that's all the Blippi I can handle.
I know.
That's all the Blippi I can take.
She was really into Blippi a couple years ago. So now she's just like, come on.
Is she out on Blippi?
Yeah. I think he's more for like 3-4-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like that, because it's overly expressive. But you see why I didn't try to hit that.
Okay, for the record, Andrew, I do not have kids. And I am capable of mass silliness to entertain the cheering of my friends and family. My goal in life is to be every kid I know's favorite uncle. All right. Like, kids who I'm not related to refer to me as Uncle Rob, but I can go extreme silliness until the kid starts being a pain, and then I'm out. That's why I like being a funkle. I get all the good parts and none of the bad parts. I get to hang with the little nephew. I get to introduce him to wrestling. I get to give him all the candy he wants. I get to be the influence that his parents do not want me to be. And then when it's too late at night and he throws a temper tantrum because he doesn't get to play with his Legos for 5 more minutes before bed, I just leave. It's awesome.
I get what you're saying, Andrew. In this day and age, you could look at it as a little bit creepy, but it could be just the dude has a heart for kids.
I'm going to tell you right now, there is a massive part of me that has for a number of years wanted to start a like Bill Nye, but for even younger kids, right? Like a Bill Nye, but for like young, like first, second graders, like take the scientific principles that Bill Nye taught to us in middle school and simplify them even further down for younger kids. But I think especially with the fact that so many, I'm going to say this, it's going to sound awful, so many of y'all parent via YouTube nowadays, right? Like, I think you have to act that way to keep a young kid's attention, because there are so many flashing lights and moving sounds available to them at all times now that if you don't grab attention with that, you cannot keep attention without it. I really hope we get truth. Actually, I don't hope we get Truth v. Cena. I can't decide if I want an R-Truth heel turn more or if ultimately R-Truth's the guy that breaks Cena out of this. I'm good either way.
You're right, James. Everyone is terminally online. We can't do this job anymore without being online. I'm constantly, you see me looking up, I'm looking for breaking news. And when you're at home, everyone's on their phones. It's just, I mean, it's not being an old guy going, back in my day, people weren't on their phones all the time. I mean, people are on their phones all the time. They just are. And I'm just as guilty. I'm not, casting disparage, whatever that is, on someone who I'm not like, because I definitely am. Not as bad as women, though, because women are worse than men, but, the
wife and I have recently come to we were watching a promo for there's a new show coming out with, and what's his name? Michael Scott, Steve Carell in it. It's like so it's kind of like a couples retreat show where there's like 4 couples, different builds and generations and whatnot. And in the trailer for it, the character played by Steve Carell, I guess it's like they're going to like resort couples therapy, and he's talking to somebody, and he goes, "Yeah," he's like, "It's like my wife and I are coworkers at a nuclear facility. Like we share the same space, but all we're ever doing is staring at screens, right?" And my wife and I were sitting there next to each other on the couch, and we were both like, "Oh, that's kind of us a little bit." So we now have a dedicated 2 nights a week where we have 1 hour. Like, no phone time. You just have to interact with each other. The NBA draft lottery took place last night. I told you that there were some numbers. I went and I found those numbers. Now, I am not a mathematician. I'm bad at numbers. That's why all my jobs are words jobs. But
that's a legitimate position. I looked it up.
I believe it is. But I did go look, and again, I, to some degree, am trusting the word of a stranger on the internet here. But a gentleman who claims to be a mathematician took the percentage possibility odds for the teams that landed 1, 2, and 3 to land 1, 2, and 3. That would be the Dallas Mavericks, 3 months after trading Luka Doncic to the LA Lakers, getting the pick at number 1. The San Antonio Spurs getting the 2nd pick. This, of course, is after they went back-to-back years having the NBA's Rookie of the Year. And the Philadelphia 76ers, one of the biggest television markets in America, finding out at the end of this year that Joel Embiid is done. He's just never, unfortunately, he's never going to turn into that superstar that is going to be able to elevate the 76ers to be a championship caliber team. They end up with pick number 3. The Mavs had a 1.8% chance to win the number 1 pick. San Antonio had a 7.5% chance to win pick number 2. And Philadelphia had a 13.2% chance to win pick number 3. For comparison's sake, the Charlotte Hornets had a 14% chance, actually greater than 14.2% chance to be the number 1 overall selection. Dallas with a 1.8 was the 1 seed. San Antonio with a 7.5% chance was the 2 seed. Philadelphia with a 13.2% chance was the 3 seed. The combined probability of that playing out, according to one mathematician on the internet, was 0.018%. That is the odds of 1 in 5,600 that this would have come through. Now, as somebody who does try to always, when we get into conversations like this, try to always be fair and logical about it, there were other teams that also had a 1.8% chance. And had any of those other teams gotten that 1 seed and the 2 and 3 stayed the same, those odds would have stayed the same. It still would have been a 1 in 5,600 chance. there were a number of other teams that had that 7.5% chance to get the 2 pick. Had any of them been selected number 2 via the ping pong balls, which, by the way, allegedly, because we don't get to see the ping pong balls anymore. That in and of itself is kind of shady, right? Like they used to bring the teams up on the stage and they had a ping pong ball machine. They are not a machine, but they had like the little, what do you call it? The little spinner thingy.
Hopper.
That's it.
Yeah, it's a hopper.
That's it. They had a little hopper and they spin it around and the guy would reach in there and he'd grab, either a ping pong ball or an envelope out of it. And then, of course, we started to get into the conspiracy theories of they would put the ping pong ball or the lottery envelope that they wanted to be selected number 1, they would put it in a deep freezer for a few hours before the lottery. And then they would put it in right before the lottery. So when lottery guy would reach in there, whoever it was going to be, the commissioner, whoever, when lottery guy would reach in there and he would feel around until he got a good grip on the frozen envelope or the cold ping pong ball. And then he would pull that one out. And that's how they would end up with the draft pick, the team that they wanted to get draft pick number 1. Now they don't even do that in front of us anymore. It's just behind closed doors. They brought in, and this is kind of one of the counterpoints that is, I'm not going to lie, I am doing my darndest to talk myself out of the NBA lottery being rigged. I'm trying to talk myself out of it being rigged. I don't want it to be rigged. But this combination of teams in this order, with all the news that's been broken around them over the course of the year, and you add on to the fact that the envelope selection or ping ball selection or whatever it is that they use now is taking place behind closed doors, the argument is that they brought in an auditing company called Ernst & Young, an auditing company so prestigious that we know them.
Yeah, they're like used for like the Oscars and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. So prestigious that we know them. And I say that's prestigious because quick, name me literally any other auditor. Just any other auditor. Name me one. The IRS, like that's all I got, right? So when all of this shaped up and this lottery went down last night, my instant gut reaction was, okay, that's it. It's rigged. It's got to be rigged. There's no way for it to not be rigged. Dallas did not send Luka Doncic to the LA Lakers, have a 1.8% chance to draw the number 1 pick, and then get it. That's not real. And on top of that, as I pointed out, this isn't new at all. My team has benefited from it twice. Decade and a half ago, Chris Paul, who was going to be sent over to the LA Lakers, and then that trade was rejected by the NBA. Now, I have to remind people, the NBA technically owned the Hornet, or the Pelicans, the Hornets, whatever you want to call them. They owned the team at that point. The team was NBA property because they had not found a new buyer at the time. And so there was actually good, although there was a lot of anger about it, because of the fact that the Lakers were going to put up, if I recall, like a pretty good return for the Pellies. That trade was rejected. Chris Paul ultimately ends up an LA Clipper. Now, the conspiracy theorist at that point in time said the Clippers were a pretty good young team. The Clippers were like on their way to being a good team. And the only thing better for the NBA than having a really good team in America's number 1 television market, Los Angeles, California, is to have 2 really good teams in that market, right? If Clippers-Lakers turns into an annual battle that occasionally shows up in the Western Conference Championship game, that's amazing for the NBA. So they turned down the trade of CP3 to the Lakers. He ends up going to the Clippers. The Pelicans end up with the number 1 overall pick the next year. They use it on Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is there for a handful of years. Unfortunately, the Pelicans are never able to put a team around him that justified his talent. He gets shipped to Los Angeles in another deal that was relatively controversial. And the next year, the Pelicans get the number 1 overall seed. Again, this time they end up going and getting Zion Williamson. So it is the same scenario, except in this case, the belief is that the NBA went to the Mavs and were like, yo, if you will send Luka out to LA, if you will pair this generational superstar at 25 years old with LeBron James for his final run, and if you will give them the future, because they don't got the future right now. If you will give them the future, which is Luka Doncic, you will end up with the number 1 overall pick. That's the conspiracy theorist plan right now, or take right now. And I got to tell you, I'm running out of arguments against those conspiracy theorists. When a flat earther says we live on a big ass pizza, I got a ton of arguments and numbers against those people. I've got a ton of evidence that I can trot out to go, you're dumb and wrong. When a conspiracy theorist floats out that we didn't land on the moon, and here's all my reasons. I got a whole episode of Mythbusters, baby. The boys of Mythbusters, right? You're dumb and wrong. I got a hard time. Let me tell you where I was checking Twitter a few minutes ago. Buddy of the show, Will Pelagic, who covers the buddy of the show, Will Pelagic, the voice of Charlotte City FC, having a good run through the MLS this year. We need to talk some footy coming up with Willie P. Willie P style on Twitter. Even he's in on it. He said last year, 3% odds to win the lottery. This year, 1.8%. How does this help the league? Will Pelagic, in just about 30 minutes, received 37 replies. Now, in fairness, because again, I think it's important to recognize where arguments are coming from. In fairness, Will Pelagic is the voice of Charlotte FC. He covers the Hornets. Most of the people responding are likely to be Hornets fans. Hornets fans are likely to be upset. Should be. Cooper Flagg could be a franchise-changing player. He may be everything that Zion was supposed to be for the Pellies. That's a dude that, and especially considering, and I talked about this earlier too, the Hornets, to me, have done a real good job the last year under new head coach Charles Lee, done a pretty good job, I think, of building a foundation. Of building a solid foundation that one superstar could come in, and that foundation adapts to that superstar. You got a good team. Honestly, like a real good team. And I would go one step further. The Charlotte Hornets, every year, whenever there is a uniform conversation or whatever, the Charlotte Hornets are always mentioned amongst the pop culture teams. This team, for a lot of years, if you would watch like hip hop videos and stuff, there was always Charlotte Hornets gear that showed up on it. How good was that retro throwback Charlotte Hornets stuff? I own some. I went to a game, not this past season, but the season before. A couple of buddies went up there to a game. And the Hornets do something I think is actually really cool. Every night, they do like a merch of the night sale where they pick one item from their store and they discount it like 80%. They were selling a Hornets hoodie with like the throwback retro colors and icon. That was so dope. I was like, yep, I own that now. Gotta have that. Went out of my way to go get it. This team has been culturally relevant to the NBA. Even if they are in a small TV market, which they are. They would have been helped so much. And I honestly think are closer to the playoffs than a lot of other teams in the league with a star like Cooper Flagg on it. They didn't get it. It is now to the point that even I, who do my best day in and day out to try to kill off dumb conspiracy theories, I, right now, am having a problem pushing back against the conspiracy theory that the league is rigged. Lonzo's already said, you honestly think it is. Like, you just believe it's true.
Yeah, I mean, not much doubt in my mind. It's rigged.
Again, y'all know that when Zoe brings up conspiracy theories, whether he's being legitimate or he's just trolling me, I push back hard. I'm having a hard time with this. A real hard time with this. I'm looking at, and again, Social media is not real life, but it's kind of like a blurry reflection of it. I was looking last night through the NBA's subreddit, the NBA's chat board. The NBA subreddit has right now 16 million members. 16 million people registered on Reddit are members of the NBA subreddit. At any given time, 5.1 thousand NBA fans are active on this website. It is on Reddit in the top 1% of both subscriptions, number of people subscribe to this subreddit, and number of people who comment on it. The NBA is like 2% less busy than the NFL's subreddit. In fact, just out of curiosity, let me look at the size of the NFL. The NFL subreddit has fewer subscribers than the NBA's. They have 12.4. The NBA's has 16. The NBA is a sport which could be, should be, would be as popular as the NFL. I believe that. They put up 11 hours ago. They put up a headline. Dallas Mavericks land number 1 pick in the draft. There are, as of right now, over 5,500 replies to it. Not even hiding it. Silver did this. Just looking through these comments, I would say I had to scroll down probably 50 or 60 comments before I got to the first person who said it's not rigged and here's the math on why and blah, 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 blah. If it's true or not is largely irrelevant. The fact that it has played out this many times, this many years, to the point that of 16 million people, I was able to, on a full response page, find one person who said it's not rigged. The NBA will never be a threat to be a top-notch league if this continues. Hey, who won the number 1 overall pick in the lottery? I bet it's in Lonzo's Sports Flash.
Maybe, maybe not. But the NBA definitely is. The New York Knicks beat the Boston Celtics 121-113, taking a 3-1 series lead. And it gets worse for Boston as star Jason Tatum was carried off the court in immense pain with what is speculated to be an Achilles injury. It looked rough. He looked like he was in real pain. Minnesota Timberwolves led the Golden State Warriors 3-1, also lead them, after a 117-110 win last night. Julius Randle had 31 and Anthony Edwards had 30 in the win. In the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes own a 3-1 series lead over the Washington Capitals after a 5-2 win last night. Canes can close it out this Thursday night at Washington. The Edmonton Oilers took a 3-1 series lead over the Vegas Golden Knights with a 3-1 shutout win last night. Adam Henrique had a pair of goals, and Evander Kane closed out the scoring while Stuart Skinner saved all 23 shots and goal. Yeah, Cleveland obviously had LeBron. I think wasn't Kyrie also number 1 pick? I believe so.
For over 8 years, QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in non-surgical relief for joint pain. With over 50,000 satisfied patients, people with knee and back pain now living pain-free. Shoulder and hip pain, gone. Hey, it's Charlie James. What they're doing is nothing short of remarkable. They're using regenerative cell therapy to restore the tissue in your achy joint. They're using biologic growth factors with robust human
Kinetics, there's no drugs, no surgery is involved, and there's no downtime. This is an all-natural cellular level activity lasting release. The patient satisfaction reports are astounding. Imagine doing all the things you enjoyed this summer without being slowed down by that awful joint pain in your knees or your back. Call QC Kinetics now and learn about these cutting-edge treatments that can help you live your best life. Call 864-448-3772 in Greenville and in Asheville. 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772.
Isn't it time you taught your kids the fun and value of golf? Well, there's no better place than to Preserve at Verday's Junior Golf Camps this summer. It includes 4 days of driving range, on-course practice, lunch and drinks, a gift bag, bag tag, and they'll leave with the certificate of completion of the junior golf program. Clubs provided if needed. Sign up now at thepreserveatverday.com. Click on events to find the 2025 Junior Golf Camps, June 16th through 19th, July 14th through 17th, and July 28th through the 31st.
Lowe's knows to bring your vision to life, it's important to find the right color. That's why My Lowe's Rewards members get a free paint or exterior stain sample to test your look and find the perfect color to confidently refresh your space. Lowe's, we help, you save. Offer valid in-store only 5/8 and 5/14. Limit 1 per customer while supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See store for details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses.
It does not. San Antonio is actually a major television market. It is inside the top 20 now. It is a rapidly growing area of development, A. And B, that would hold a little bit more water, except for Victor Wembanyama for a couple of years before he ended up getting drafted, said repeatedly he wanted to be a Spurs. And at the time, the Spurs had just lost all of their top-notch stars, which seems to be the trend, is lose your biggest stars in a big TV market, end up with a good draft pick to get the future.
QC.
Again,
first break.
You're kind of I agree you're not necessarily stretching for that one, but all of the teams inside of the top 3 had some sort of real negative outcome this year.
Oh, no. Don't start.
Oh, we are going to start the final hour of the show right this very second. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, rolling through 4 hours of fun and shenanigans every morning from 6 till 10 a.m. I was asked during the break why it was that we're hanging on this NBA draft lottery thing so big. It's like, I get why you're talking about the playoffs. This is not necessarily a big time NBA area. I understand that. It is an NBA area. I understand that. Maybe not its number one sport. Why are you hanging on the draft lottery? Why not talk about the Knicks and the Celtics? And I'm going to, coming up in this hour, talk about the 2 games last night and the series that are going on. I'm also going to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes up 3-1 on Washington. This was the Caps were the team of destiny. This was going to be the year that they went and got Ovi his title to skate off on. And instead they find themselves down 3-1 to the Cardiac Canes. We're going to talk about that coming up here in just a little while. But I thought about it a lot during the break. Why is it that I am so hung up on this NBA draft lottery from last night? And the answer is twofold. Number one, as an anti-conspiracy theorist, as a person who thinks that conspiracies are the conspiracy, conspiracy theories for me have always been a way to rally a large number of dumb people to the same cause. Okay, I'm just going to be blunt about how I feel. Conspiracy theorists or theories are a way to rally a lot of people to one place to then get them on about something else that is maybe a bit more nefarious. I believe that they are a social rallying call for a large group of people that you may not get on board with anything else. The reason I think people get into conspiracy theories is because we as humans are pattern-seeking creatures. We have evolved that way. And we as humans do not like to not be able to understand something. Zoe and I have battled with this many, many times. When something comes down the pipe that we don't like, here's what we're going to do from now on, and we don't understand it. Those are the things that we start to go, I don't like this. I don't like not understanding things. I have, over my lifetime, fortunately for me, been very adept at figuring stuff out, being able to figure out how something works, getting good at things. Maybe not great at any one thing, but pretty good at everything. Biggest issue in my life right now, the brother-in-law was kind enough for Christmas to get my wife and I a Blackstone griddle. All right, these things are like sweeping the nation right now. He got us one for Christmas, and I love it. And so, for the life of me, I cannot figure it out. I can work a grill like a champ. Burgers on the grill, mwah, flawless every time. For some reason, I cannot get the timing down on this Blackstone griddle. And, you know, there's hot spots, cold spots, neutral areas. There's ways to cover up the meat on the grill to make it cook faster or more thoroughly or give it the right sear. All these things on the grill, absolutely adept at.
You need to pay attention to it more on the griddle, right? You can't just set it and then leave it.
Right. It's because the griddle cooks differently. Because it's a flat surface, it cooks differently than over an open flame. It takes a little bit more time. It doesn't get quite as hot as like a full fire grill, right? There's a lot to it, and I'm having a real hard time figuring it out. We went up to the mother-in-law's on Sunday for Mother's Day to cook her some dinner, and she just wanted burgers, right? We're just going to do burgers on the Blackstone, on the flat top, and I was like, for sure. So we brought that thing up there. And I got it all set up, and I stood outside having a beer and cooking burgers while the wife and the mom were inside having mother-daughter time. And I got they look so good on the outside. They had that nice sear on them. I seasoned them up. I used a little Tony Satchery Cajun seasoning, so it had a little pop to it. Man, they look so good. We took them inside, cut them open, and they were not done. I was beyond frustrated. We don't like not being able to understand things. And conspiracy theories are ways for people who don't understand a thing to feel like they do. It's a way to, without having to actually learn about all the things that make a thing, still say, well, I actually know what's happening here. So I'm usually very anti-conspiracy theory. But with this one, I'm having a real hard time coming to grips with it. And that is one of the two reasons that I have hung up on this NBA lottery thing today. The second reason I'm hung up on this lottery thing today is I think that as fans, and it may just be me, some may have accepted a truth to the contrary. But for me, one of the reasons that I have grown up loving sports and that I have stayed loving sports as an adult is the belief that if you run a team well, if you manage a team well, if you organize the team well, if you coach the team well, everybody has a chance. Everybody has a chance. Part of the reason that we beat up on teams like the Cleveland Browns is because of a history of poor management decisions. We don't really, not all of us, we don't beat up on the players, right? We beat up on coaches sometimes for poor coaching. We beat up on general managers for poor general managing. And we beat up on owners for bad owning. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? And unless it's just an extreme circumstance, rarely beat up on the players, because we believe that with all things being fair, with everything being equal, if your owner's good, and if your general manager's good, and if your head coach is good, that the players, there's enough talent to go around The players will want to be a part of it. Players want to win. And if everything's done right, everybody has a chance. But if this conspiracy theory about the NBA draft is true, then what cannot be true is the belief that everybody has a chance. Now, the counter argument to that is, well, Milwaukee got Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they won an NBA title with Giannis Antetokounmpo. And that is true. And that is absolutely an argument to the contrary. They were able to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. They were able to draft Giannis Antetokounmpo. And they were able to win a title with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, in fairness, since he was brought to the NBA back in 2013. By the way, do you remember what pick Giannis Antetokounmpo went at? 15. 15 in the 2013 NBA draft. Taken that year ahead of him were Anthony Bennett, Victor Oladipo, Otto Porter Jr., Cody Zeller, Alex Len, Nerlens Noel, Ben McLemore, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Trey Burke, and CJ McCollum, Michael Carter-Williams, Steven Adams, Kelly Olynyk, and Shabazz Muhammad, all ahead of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Let's be real clear here. Milwaukee was not given a number 1 overall draft pick that turned out to be one of the greatest basketball players on the face of the planet. They happen to draft well in the 15th draft position. So even that argument's not there. Well, would you look at this? Giannis Antetokounmpo was in Milwaukee. They win a title a few years ago. After, by the way, more years than most first-round, first overall draft picks spend with their team that drafted them. Most of these guys play out their rookie contract. A few of them, like Zion, and by the way, I don't think there was nearly the market for Zion that a lot of people thought. They may sign a second extension. But most of the time, you get, as a Pelicans fan, Chris Paul, Anthony Davis. They play for a while. Your team is even with a superstar, it's difficult to draft big name free agents. You don't hit on that next guy on the draft at spot 15. Those guys go on and move on to major markets. Well, here's the conspiracy theory with Giannis Antetokounmpo right now. And I don't know if it's going to work out or not. But the conspiracy theory for the reason that San Antonio ended up with a 2 spot is that San Antonio is a major television market. San Antonio has had a string of bad luck. You've got the bad luck with the Popovich situation playing out. You had bad luck this year with a San Antonio team that was absolutely poised to make the playoffs. Victor Wembanyama ends up with that deep vein thrombosis. He cannot play for the second half of the season. Not even the second half, final quarter of the season. San Antonio ends up just getting edged out of the NBA playoffs. Good young core. Team in a TV market that is at threat. I don't know how much impact it would have, but at threat of losing some of the fan base because Greg Popovich is gone, right? It feels like that even when the Duncans and the Ginobilis and the Parkers and the Kawhis all left San Antonio, with Greg Pops there, it always felt like San Antonio is kind of right there. They're on the verge. They're on the verge. They could be back. The right draft. And oh, by the way, back-to-back rookies of the year for San Antonio. But Greg Pops is gone. There's some flux in that organization right now. And just like that, they not only win number 2 in the NBA draft order, but they also hold spot number 14. The theory right now is that 2 spots go into Milwaukee for Giannis Antetokounmpo. A big-time player, leaves a small market team, ends up... Now, you can say that it's understandable that Giannis would want out of Milwaukee. He's been with that team for a dozen years. Since 2013. Or excuse me, 15. So 9 years. I'm bad at math. 9 years he's been with that team. They've won 1 title. In the past 4 years, it has been conference finals bounced, first round bounced, first round bounced, first round bounced. And frankly, with the exception of getting Damian Lillard, which Damian Lillard, I believe, was only good with the trade to Milwaukee because Giannis Antetokounmpo was there and he was going to get paired up with a power forward, which he had in Portland for a little while. And when he was paired up with power forwards in Portland, Portland was an NBA Finals team. They lost all of that. Dame wanted out. Giannis wanted a point guard. He wanted to play with a power forward. They got a guy. Well, it didn't work out. Those two guys did not pair up as well as I think either one of them would have hoped to have paired up. And of course, Dame got hurt in the playoffs, but I don't think it would have mattered at the end of the day because there's not a good enough team. And so Giannis is out. He goes to San Antonio. San Antonio just happens to get pick number 2, a pick that I believe, and if this happens, I suspect I will come in here with a very big head the next day. San Antonio sends 2 to Milwaukee. Giannis goes down to San Antonio playing with Victor Wembanyama, playing with last year's Rookie of the Year, playing with a couple of good draft picks, a couple of young players. And San Antonio, inside of a major television market, goes right back to being a powerhouse, while Milwaukee, while they may end up with the number 2 pick, they're going to have the number 2 pick for a couple of years. We'll get traded out, and Milwaukee just goes back to Pelican status. The reason that I am hung up on this draft lottery conversation is because, number one, I do love the NBA. I love basketball. Basketball was my, as a sport, basketball was my first love. Basketball was my first multisyllabic word. My mother still complains about it. Blame my Uncle Mike. He was the funkle. I love basketball. Always have. I love the NBA. I always have. But I've also loved the NBA because I always believed that a well-run team, a well-coached team had as much of a shot as anybody else. And now today, whether this conspiracy theory is true or not, now today, I'm losing that belief. I'm losing that spark. I'm losing that joy. I'm losing the belief that, well, if the Pellies come back next year, and if Zion is healthy, and if we nail the number 7 pick, and we find a dude who plays well within the system, and he plays well and partners well with Z, and maybe we can run it back, and maybe CJ McCollum had to do too much as a scoring point guard. Maybe if he can go back to an assist point guard who also has a good 3, maybe the Pelicans can make a run. We've made a couple of playoff runs. Maybe we can make one more. But the reality of the situation is no, we're drafting 7. We are going to be another one of the teams that gets a top 10 pick and ends up drafting a kid who plays a couple of years, maybe spends a year or 2 in the G League and turns out to be an okay player. Again, you always have the hope that you're going to find that Giannis Antetokounmpo at 15, but that's the exception, not the rule. And we're going to go right back to being a team that there is no point in me investing anything in. You invest money in your team because you believe that your team can win. And I'm not even talking about winning championships, man. I am under no disillusion that I will ever see a New Orleans Pelicans NBA title. It's never going to happen. But man, I'd like to be good. I'd like to be able to convince myself on a random Tuesday during the NBA season that it's worth watching because, hey, maybe. And now it feels like not. Now it feels like not. Now it feels like even if we stink again next year and we give ourselves a chance in the draft the year after that, all that's going to happen is whoever does something nice for the rest of the league is going to be awarded the number 1 pick. Not draw it, but awarded that. Robert Griffin III put up a tweet last night that says, Dear NBA fans, this is a safe space. Is the NBA draft lottery rigged? Why or why not? The Dallas Mavericks made the worst trade in NBA history, sending Luka Doncic to the Lakers and get rewarded with the number 1 pick in the draft lottery to potentially draft Cooper Flagg. What? I'm looking down through the responses. Yes, it's rigged. Another guy. It's been rigged many times. Another guy. To say that it's rigged means you'd have to say they care about Dallas. They do. Sean McKnight says, the Jazz had the best odds to land in the top 3. They ended with 5. That happens every time. Rigged. SCCJ James says, rigged. I'm looking down the responses to RG3, a football dude who asked about the NBA, and the overwhelming number of tweets are, yeah, bro, it definitely is, including Izzy, who says either rigged or God was rewarding Nico for trading Luka. Rigged. Like, you see where we're at? Even if it's not true, everybody's on board with the fact that it is. Back after this, and we'll get away from the NBA on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
You see.
All right, guys, one more live and we're back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. number one lesson that I used to tell my players when I coached youth sports was play under control. Play fast, play physical, play your style, but play under control. The Carolina Hurricanes right now are up 3-1 on the Washington Capitals in the Eastern Conference semifinals of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I am ecstatic about that because honestly, I thought this was a 7-game series. The Capitals are big. They are physical. Tom Wilson can change any game with one hit. He is that type of dude. And of course, you may have heard about a cat that plays and shoots from the outside circle named Alex Ovechkin. He was kind of a big deal this year as he passed Wayne Gretzky's all-time goals scored record. The dude is a threat on the outside. With those two guys and a supporting cast that very much understands where they are supposed to be and when they are supposed to be there, the Washington Capitals are a very good hockey team. And I thought that while Carolina has more on paper in terms of talent, in my opinion, and frankly, I think Rod Brindamore may actually be quietly one of the best coaches in the National Hockey League. That man's getting a statue when he's done. I still thought this was at best, 6-game series, and it may still be. The next game is in Washington. But I thought this was likely a 7-game series. I think it's probably done at Washington. I think Carolina took all the wind out of the sails of the Caps last night. Here is the one issue I am concerned with. And it's not about the Caps. Because I do think, once I tell you what this issue is, Carolina can handle it. They did it last night. It is no longer this series against Washington that I'm worried about. It is the next series against the winner of Toronto versus Florida, a series that is tied up at 2 games apiece. Play under control. The one concern that I have right now about these Carolina Hurricanes is very simple. They get out of control. They play fast, they play physical, but occasionally they can be goaded into making a mistake. Last night, they had the Caps all but put away. Everything was going in their direction. They had a 2-goal lead. They were outskating Washington. They were creating opportunities. Everything was going right. And then they gave up like 3 power plays, including 2 in a row, 1 while they were already on the penalty kill. And when they were on the PK, they ended up going down a man, 5 skaters, 2-3. Alex Ovechkin scores. He brings it to within 1. And, oh, by the way, there was still a minute 18 left on the power play when they were only down 1 with, again, Alex Ovechkin on the ice. I was terrified that after that Ovi goal, with about, 18 minutes left in the third period, I was terrified, they're going to get another one back. They're going to score back-to-back power play goals, and it's all because Carolina decided to get out of control and get reckless. They panicked a little bit on defense, and the response to that panic was not to settle down in the zone, get comfortable, go to your penalty kill, understand that OV off of the left face-off circle is where they are trying to work the puck. Quite the opposite. Washington went on a 2-on-1 breakaway, and instead of force the puck to the outside, give your guys time to get back to the defensive zone and set up, they just wrecked guys. Gave away the goal. Fortunately, they were able to kill off that last power play. Sean Walker would score 1 at 16:45 in the third. Svechnikov would get the empty netter from Stahl and Martinuk on the assist with 18 and just over 2 minutes left to play in the match, and they would eventually be able to put away the Caps. That's fine against Washington. That's fine against Washington. Again, a very good team, a team I thought could take Carolina to 7. I'll tell you where it's not fine. Whether it's Florida or whether it's Toronto, it's not fine against either one of those two teams. Those are two teams that both have a good power play. Those are two teams, more importantly, that very much understand not just how to play physical hockey, but how to respond to it if you get out of control. Florida, in the game 4 against Toronto, it was the Panthers that ended up with a dub, but at the end of that game, it started getting a little bit chippy. And it looked for a minute there at the end of the third, all of a sudden, you were seeing Toronto get a few more shots on goal. You were starting to see Sergei Bobrovsky be a little more challenged in goal. Faced 23 shots, had 4 power plays against him. And Florida never pulled away offensively from Toronto. Why? Because both of these teams know how to skate with smarts as well as speed. Carolina has got to clean up the discipline with the puck and off of it, frankly. It's really on the defensive end. Offensively, actually, I should give them credit. Credit where credit is due. On the offensive side, Carolina's actually, I think, played really intelligent hockey. They kind of know where the lanes are going to be. They're taking advantage of one-on-one matchups. I have not seen, just in this series alone, I have not seen a team that seems to understand how to run the counterattack like Carolina's been doing. They are not only creating the 3-on-2s, not only creating the 2-on-1s, but they are recognizing when the defense is favoring one side or the other. They are taking advantage of that. The goal from last night from Taylor Hall was a breakaway goal. Roslovic and Walker both had assists on that one. It was a breakaway goal, and on that goal, there were like 4 passes on the setup to that goal. That's why they had 2 assists on it. It was multiple passes to get into the offensive zone. It was one last pass to create the goal. This team, when it is on the offensive side, is doing just about everything right. The defensive side's got to clean up. The defensive side has got to be better. Because if the defensive side is not better, Toronto can score goals in bunches. And on the flip side, Florida knows exactly how to hit you in just the right way to get a response. That's why they got Brad Marchand, because Florida is the most physical hockey team in the National Hockey League. Marchand was brought down not just to continue that legacy. Brad Marchand was brought down, I think, to make sure it is done in a way that they get away with it. He's the Draymond Green of the NHL. He is always going to know where he can get away with the shots and where he can't. That is why, for years, NHL public enemy number 1 on this radio program has been Brad. Brad is the only NHL player who has gotten his name called out with the disdain because he's really good at it. Brad Marchand, like Draymond Green, is the definition of, yeah, he's a b-hole, but he's our b-hole. They loved him in Boston. Now they love him in Florida. They love him in Sunrise. That's the game Brad Marchand plays. That's the game he was brought down to Florida, not just to play, but to help them get away with playing. They've gotten away with playing that against Toronto. To me, I'm honestly shocked this series isn't 3-1 in favor of the Panthers. And Toronto may still very well win the game, because one of the things that comes along with a series is you learning game by game what the strategy of the bad guys is going to be and being able to adapt to it. Toronto's done a pretty good job of adapting, even though they did drop the last game in a shutout loss 2-0. I don't care which one of these two teams gets through, assuming Carolina is able to finish off the Caps in games 6 or 7, whether it's in DC or back home in Carolina in game 7. I think they finish off the Capitals. But I am telling you, this out of control play on the defensive side of the ice is the one thing that I think prevents Carolina from getting out of the East and getting to the Stanley Cup Finals. It's a whole different ball game when we get to the other side of the bracket with the teams coming out of the West, whether it's the Jets, Golden Knights, or Oilers. As of right now, I'm pretty comfortable saying it's going to be either Edmonton or it's going to be Dallas. They lead that series 2-1. That's not an overcomable tally for the Edmonton Oilers, but like there's something about this team. They've slowed down somehow. And on top of that, Jake Ottinger, who was kind of a weak spot in the opening series for the Stars against the Avalanche, he's playing great hockey in front of the net right now. Forget the West. Let's focus on the East. Defensively, Carolina's got to play smarter hockey. They cannot give away these, not just the power plays, but give away the power plays at the worst possible time. You're up 2, put them away. Instead, you're skating 5-on-3. You let Ovi score a goal to whip them into shape, and you're still down a man for another minute 18. That kind of stuff has got to quit. If they can't get rid of that, they can't get out of the East. If they can, they are my favorites out of the East to move on. Back in a minute. The Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate. Why? Light?
Nothing wrong with resting every once in a while. Sun is shining, kind of.
We're getting there. We've got one more mulch project to finish, and then we're done. And we'll still have a mound of it in the backyard. Beehole Brad is what they would call him. That's what I call him. That's not what I call him, but I might now. Brad Marchand is, like I said, he's the Draymond Green of the NHL, and he's real good at it. I was not, I'll be honest with you, I was not really into hockey when the Thrashers were a thing. If Atlanta brings back an NHL team, which I honestly really hope they do, if Atlanta brings back the Thrashers, I will be at a lot of NHL games in Atlanta. I will go to more NHL games than I go to NBA games in Atlanta. I go to like 1 or 2 NBA games a year. I would go to a handful of hockey games a year. Apparently, I don't even want to bring this up in case it's on Twitter trending topics. I don't think it's going to be. Bringing it up? Yes. Mainly because I may bring it up as an actual topic, like regular segment topic here. I'm very excited about a little TV announcement that was just made by a professional wrestler. Nope.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to say who it is in case it...
It's not. There are no wrestlers on there. Right.
The Miz just announced the return of American Gladiators to Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I saw that earlier.
Not the guy I would have picked for the host role, I don't think. But also a guy I'd absolutely give a shot at it.
I'm pretty sure he hosted something similar. I mean, he's hosted something. He's not going to be like Cena hosting Wipeout or whatever that is. Braun Strowman is doing a Eat Everything series for WWE.
I was going to say they may not have him wrestling, but he's going to, I'm sure, occasionally pop up
Because he's a big character,
Yeah.
literally and figuratively. It's a large man. Do you really need the light for the
Yes.
last little bit?
It's just weird that it's like on and off with like no reason.
He's not, Kane. Carl Urban is Johnny Cage in the next Mortal Kombat movie.
Carl Urban.
Yeah. Which I don't know when it should be coming out soon.
That's an interesting pick for
Yeah, I didn't care for it, but
Yeah.
he's good in whatever he does.
There are just television shows that become important in our lives. And all of us have a few that are special to us for whatever reason. Then there are a few television shows that transcend any sort of demographic limitations. There are some TV shows that become American institutions, and we know what they are. The Price is Right is one of them. For a hot minute there, America's Funniest Home Videos, back during the Bob Saget days, of course.
It's still running, I believe.
It
with
is.
Alfonso Ribeiro.
Carlton Banks now in charge of that show. But the Bob Saget days of America's Funniest Home Videos institution, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, transcended demographics. I've told you, one of my Ute memories was the fact that my dad loved that show. My family would gather around the TV to watch The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. One show that I think absolutely raised the bar. One show that I think absolutely became a staple of American culture. American Gladiators. I can't even begin to describe the number of hours that I sunk into American Gladiators as a kid. I cannot tell you the number of times that little brother and I would have gone out into the backyard with pool noodles to stand on chairs and play jousting.
Who won?
They were pool noodles. We weren't allowed to really get at it.
Oh, come on. Something slips through every
Me.
once in a while. Okay, all right.
Me.
I don't know how much reach you have, so.
I used to have more on him. He's actually taller than me now. It's the worst thing that's ever happened in my life. Okay? Worst thing that's ever happened in my life. There were shows that transcended demographic limitations, and American Gladiators was one of them. It has just been announced that American Gladiators is coming back. Now, if I recall correctly, they actually did a reboot of American Gladiators a few years ago.
They did with Hogan, I think.
With Terry Bollea, with Hulk Hogan as those. Now, the OG American Gladiators was back on in 1989. It ran until 1996. They rebooted it in 2008. It was co-hosted by Hulk Hogan and Layla Ali, the daughter of Muhammad Ali.
Who is also a professional boxer.
Who is
and
also a
champion
professional
in her
boxer.
own right. Yeah.
That is correct. That year, and I'm not gonna lie, I did not watch it in 2008 because I have had a disdain for Hulk Hogan for a lot longer than it's been popular to have a disdain of Hulk Hogan. It did nothing for me. And on top of that, my understanding was it was a little bit more reality showy than the OG American Gladiators that I watched back in the day as a Ute, that I watched as a cheering. Mike the Miz Mizanin just tweeted out a little while ago. Well, actually, last night. That he is the new host of a new American Gladiators being brought to Amazon Prime Video. He said in the only sentence that has me very excited about this, the end of the tweet is, quote, "We are honoring the original and bringing fresh energy to a whole new generation. All caps, AG is back!" Exclamation point.
Very first celebrity I ever interviewed on the first sports show that I ever had was Storm from American Gladiators. And that was pretty cool because one of the co-hosts coerced the show into the fact that I had to arm wrestle Storm from American Gladiators.
How'd that go?
And then Storm from American Gladiators, who was playing women's professional football at the time, said, "If you lose, you have to show up to our game and wear a cheerleader's outfit." In which I said, "No, I don't. I never agreed to that." And finally, I did arm wrestle her, and I cheated and I won because I'm not wearing a cheerleader outfit. Plus, the whole time we were interviewing her, I would do what I do, and every time she laughed, she smacked me on the arm. And I had this huge bruise on my arm the next day. She tore me up. I mean, it wasn't little tiny taps. The very first one was like, oh no. I mean, to me, it was the equivalent of getting chopped by Gunther now. I mean, she tore my arm up every single time.
Dark-haired lady?
Yes.
Okay. Debbie Clark, 5'9", 165 from the United States of America, competed on the was this the 08 version or the OG version? When did this happen?
When did the interview happen?
Yeah.
The interview happened in, I don't know, 24 years ago or something like that. So it's been a while.
Okay. There is an entire.
I have videotape somewhere because it was on camcorder. Yes, it was on camcorder.
Okay, so like 1996.
And then when it was over, no, it would have been later. She was past being on there.
Yeah,
it was
okay,
over. This was later on. She had moved on to another career because it was over. Then when it was done, she went to act like she was going to hit me. Instead, she threw her arms around my neck and kissed me on the cheek.
And Lonzo felt a certain kind of way in that
No,
moment.
I felt like, this tape is not getting seen by home.
And
of course, as soon as I get home, this is before the internet. So my wife was like, "Let me see the tape." Well, you don't.
Oh, it got burnt.
Yeah, you don't need to see it. She ended up watching it eventually, but still.
And I'm assuming laughed hysterically.
She did because of how the discomfort on my face.
Fair enough.
Because I was not expecting any of that from her. She was very much a flirt. So
I loved American Gladiators. I cannot say that it is not an origination point of Rob's fascination with women who could kick his ass in real life, but I'm not saying it's not one of the origination points. I got to tell you, all in day one. All in day one. The Miz probably would not have been my first choice for the host of this show. I think one of the things that I loved about the OG American Gladiators was that it genuinely felt like it was a show that was more about, like it felt like a competition. Like it felt like a real competition of the old pros versus Joe's format.
And the participants, the paid like Storm and Ice and all those people, they did not want to lose. They absolutely did not. So it was definitely competitive on their side. Like I said, got to interview one of them, and she was saying they want to win every single time, and they got mad when they lost.
Like there were episodes, as a cheering, there were episodes of this show where the Gladiators would lose to the competitors and like try to fight them. Like it was intense, or at least it felt that way on TV. And then of course you add on to the fact that you had like legitimate athletic legends as the host of the show. Joe Theismann was Larry Zonka. I know more about Larry Zonka from his time as the host of American Gladiators than I did about Larry Zonka, the football player.
Someone mentioned earlier Mike Adamle, and I loved him being on there also.
Mike Adamle was, if I believe, was like there most of that show's run. All of that being said, bring this show back.
I don't like that it's on Prime because I don't watch those kind of shows on Prime. I'll go there to watch like The Boys or something like that, but going to watch basically a game show or a show like this, an episodic show like that, for some reason I just don't go. I still have to watch it on real TV, and you're unplugged, so you don't get that anymore. You've been unplugged for a while, but I still have Dish Network. I prefer something like that to be on there where I can DVR it and have all of them in a row and be able to sit there. And I know you get it on Prime, but it's just, for some reason, it's just, it's a little bit more difficult for me to get there than it is with the remotes that are available. I either have to go on my Xbox or go to and see, you're laughing, you're doing the old thing, but it's not what it is. It's a matter of convenience for me. And I think some things are better on TV than they are on a subscription service. And I think that's going to hurt it.
American Gladiators, for me, is such a callback, such a throwback, that I will 10,005% go out of my way to give this thing a shot. I the number of Saturdays
we'll see.
Where my Saturday morning schedule as a kid, and again, I was a kid. This may very well be one of those nostalgia moments where you try something from back in your childhood days because you have these great glowing memories of it, and you fire up that thing in like 3 minutes, and you're like, this sucks. Like what? Like whatever. It's not so much that the product was great and you were a kid. You just remember how great it was because you were a kid. I am 1,000% going out of my way to give Mike the Miz Mezzanin's American Gladiators a shot.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
You may get more of a shot of me watching because the Miz is on it. He's pretty good. All right. The first thing that's Xing is Playoff Jimmy.
Playoff Jimmy ain't that no more. Talked about this one a little bit earlier in the show. Jimmy Buckets last night, I think, had a chance to make himself a Golden State legend in his first 5 months as a Golden State Warrior. Last night, the Dubs needed playoff Jimmy, and Jimmy disappeared. I think, if I recall correctly, in the fourth quarter of a very winnable game, by the way, very winnable game, Jimmy Butler took no field goals. Jimmy Butler would drive the paint and then just look for anybody to do anything that didn't require him to take over the game. I'm a huge Jimmy Butler fan. I love his game. Ryan Horvat has said something for a long time that's bothered me. He has said Jimmy Butler will always be the second best player on a championship team and never the best player on one. And last night I texted him and I'm like, I think you're right, dog. I think you're right.
But he may be wrong because he actually has to be on a championship team to be
that's very fair.
The second best. All right. The next thing it's Xing is Optimus.
As in Prime?
Kind of. All right. So Optimus is a robot.
Yeah.
Which is now a dancing robot.
He's a robot in disguise.
This is one of from Elon Musk's robot company, and now they have it dancing, like vaudeville kind of dancing.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime bot.
Yes. It can already walk. It can already do a bunch of other stuff.
Did you see the video from last week where one of the Boston Dynamics robots freaked out?
Yes.
Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
I immediately thought of you. There's two guys like sitting next to one of the Boston Dynamic robots, and they're like having coffee or whatever, and the robot's hanging on a chain. I don't know if they were working on it or what, and the robot flips the bleep out. And I will say that the difference between the mechanics of the robot were going crazy versus the AI was swinging on these dudes. It was hard to tell.
And you could tell they were scared and trying to figure out what to do, and they didn't want to get hurt or anybody else to get hurt.
Yeah, this thing, listen, if you would have told me this was a like a mechanical freak out from the robot, I'd been like, that makes sense. And if you would have told me we have proof that this one became self-aware and was going to get these dudes, I'd have believed that
It
too.
looked like the robot woke up from a nightmare. And
It did.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it looked. That's the best way to describe it. It looks like it came to front. You know how you'll jump out of bed and you do that like leap up thing and like the hands go out to the side just in case. It was that, but a robot. And these dudes, I can't imagine, didn't poop their pants because I would have.
All right. The next Anzac scene is Stephon Diggs.
Stephon, no idea.
He was at the Knicks game last night with his new girl, Cardi B.
Who wasn't at the Knicks game last night?
Yeah, but he's with Cardi B. So for some reason that made it trend. And let's see. Finally, Nico is trending.
You son of a Nico. Well, I'm assuming we're talking Harrison and not Iam Aliava this time.
We are.
Nico trades away. Look, it makes the most lopsided trade maybe in the history of professional American sports. A move that should have cost him his job immediately. No, he's just going to get Cooper Flag next year and get to rebuild the whole thing. I don't want to believe the conspiracy theories, but it's really tough for me not to. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you didn't, you have bad taste in radio. Come back tomorrow. We'll try all over again. NFL schedule releases tomorrow night. So tomorrow day, we'll take a look at what the Panther schedule could favorably shape up like or what looks awful. All that and more on tomorrow's edition of The Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later! Hornets should trade LaMelo for gym equipment and see what I tell you. I think Ball's a good little player. I really do. I think if he could keep his ankles from exploding under him over and over, which by the way, I got to give him credit because he came into this year talking, I'll never do the ankle braces, and then he started wearing them about halfway through the season. So I think he's taking it seriously, and I think he could be a good little point guard. But he's got to have that other threat. He's got to have that other guy that pulls defenses out so that he can operate as a scoring point guard. And they just don't have that right now. Now, if they can find that guy with pick number 4, and there are a couple of interesting scoring threats in there. If they can find that guy, I think they have a chance to do something special. But it is going to be interesting to see what the strategy is with pick number 4 and who comes off the board 1, 2, 3. The Hornets have an opportunity to do something really special with this, I think. But we'll see. All right, that's it for us, dudes and dudettes. We got a jet. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. Tell your friends about us. We're trying to get rich and famous and be retired sooner rather than later. Well, we'll see. Bye.